Sultan Amir, the wise and just ruler of the kingdom. In a tranquil kingdom nestled among softly rolling hills and shimmering rivers, the dawn of a new life brought hope and calm. It was here that Amir was born, a child whose arrival seemed to echo the gentle whispers of the wind and the peaceful rustle of leaves. His family was humble yet deeply respected, known throughout the land for their honesty, kindness, and unwavering sense of justice. From the very beginning, Amir's world was filled with stories told by his parents, tales of courage, fairness, and the importance of listening with an open heart. As a boy, Amir wandered through gardens heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine and beneath skies studded with countless stars. His childhood was marked not by noise or clamour, but by quiet moments of reflection, learning to understand the world not just through words but through feeling and observation. The elders of the village often spoke of his gentle nature, a young soul who could calm even the most troubled heart with a simple smile or a patient ear. The kingdom itself had seen both bright days and dark storms, and as Amir grew, so too did the challenges that faced his people. When the throne was left empty by the passing of the previous ruler, the people did not seek a leader who would command with fear or force. Instead, their eyes turned toward Amir, a young man whose wisdom belied his years and whose heart beat with the steady rhythm of compassion. It was not just his bloodline that called him to rule, but the quiet trust of those who believed that a just and gentle hand could guide them through uncertain times. Early in his reign, the kingdom seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The marketplaces buzzed with life once again, laughter echoed down cobbled streets, and hope blossomed like the vibrant flowers in the palace gardens. Sultan Amir walked among his people, not as a distant ruler on a throne, but as a humble servant to their needs. He listened carefully to the farmers who spoke of the changing seasons, the merchants who dreamed of distant trade, and the mothers who hoped for a peaceful future for their children. Every decision he made was touched by the voices of his people, and justice was no longer a mere ideal but a living, breathing reality. Yet, the journey of a ruler is rarely without its shadows. As the years passed, a silent illness began to settle upon Amir's body, a slow and unseen foe that weakened his limbs but never dimmed the light in his eyes. Though his mind remained sharp and his spirit unbroken, the pain brought moments of doubt and quiet struggle. This was a turning point, not only for Amir but for the kingdom that depended on his steady hand. Despite his own suffering, Amir remained deeply connected to his people, drawing strength from their faith and surrounding himself with wise counselors who reminded him of the values he held dear. But even in the calmest of waters, ripples can grow into waves. Within the palace walls, whispers of unrest stirred. Some courtiers saw the king's vulnerability as an opportunity, weaving schemes in shadowed halls and seeking to bend Amir's kindness for their own gain. The gentle reign that had brought so much peace began to face tests of loyalty and trust. Mistakes were made, decisions clouded by the weight of illness and fatigue. But through it all, Amir's commitment to fairness and justice flickered like a distant but unwavering flame. As the final chapter of his reign approached, the kingdom braced itself for a farewell that was both sorrowful and tender. Amir's passing was as gentle as his life, like a soft breeze fading into the night, leaving behind a world touched by his kindness and wisdom. The people mourned not only a king but a symbol of hope and gentle strength, a leader who showed that true power lies not in might but in mercy. Today the story of Sultan Amir is told as a lullaby across the land, a reminder that even in times of hardship, a heart rooted in compassion can guide a kingdom through darkness to dawn. His legacy teaches us that wisdom comes from listening, that justice flourishes with kindness, and that leadership is the courage to remain gentle in a world that often demands otherwise. So now, as you prepare to close your eyes and drift into sleep, may the memory of Sultan Amir's calm strength soothe your soul, Let his story wrap around you like a soft blanket, carrying you gently into dreams where peace reigns and hearts find rest. Sleep well, dear dreamer. Sweet dreams. Favourite wife, Layla. The Sultan's beloved wife, known for her kindness and beauty. In the heart of a tranquil kingdom, ruled by the wise Sultan Amir, there was a woman whose presence was like a gentle melody carried on the evening breeze. Layla, the Sultan's favourite wife, was known far and wide not only for her breathtaking beauty, but for a kindness that touched every soul she encountered. Her story began humbly, in a small village nestled among olive groves and wildflowers, where the air was fragrant with the scent of earth and blossoms. From the earliest days of her childhood, Layla was surrounded by love and gentle teachings. Her mother, a woman of quiet strength and endless patience, would often gather the children beneath the ancient fig tree and tell stories of grace, courage, and the power of kindness. Layla listened with wide eyes and a soft heart, learning that true beauty comes not from appearances but from the light that shines within. As she grew, she carried these lessons close, her spirit blossoming like the flowers that danced in the breeze around her village. Life in the village was simple and filled with small joys, the laughter of children playing near the stream, the warm touch of the sun on olive leaves, and the quiet comfort of family gatherings around the fire. Layla helped her family with daily tasks, but she was also known for her gentle ways soothing the frightened, sharing what little they had, and always offering a smile that could brighten the darkest day. Her kindness was like a soft song, one that echoed beyond the hills and reached even the grand palace where Sultan Amir ruled. When Layla first met Amir, it was not just her beauty that captivated him, but the kindness that radiated from her very being. The Sultan, who carried the weight of a kingdom on his shoulders, found in Layla a balm for his restless soul. She was his confidant, his quiet strength in times of trial, and a light that guided him through the shadows. Their bond was built on mutual respect and deep affection, a partnership where love and wisdom flourished hand in hand. In the early days of their life together, the palace was filled with the soft murmur of shared dreams and gentle laughter. Layla moved gracefully through the grand halls, not as a distant queen, but as a compassionate heart that reached out to those around her. She listened to the stories of the people, visited the sick in the palace infirmary, and cared for the children who played beneath the marble arches. Her kindness was a thread woven through the fabric of the kingdom, binding it together in peace and hope. Yet, as with all lives, Layla's journey was not without its challenges. The years brought shadows as well as light. When Sultan Amir's health began to falter, Layla's love shone even brighter. She became his steadfast companion, tending to his needs with tender care, offering words of encouragement and quiet strength. When betrayal whispered through the palace, threatening the harmony they had worked so hard to build, Layla remained unshaken. Her resolve was fierce beneath her gentle smile. She protected not only Amir but the kingdom's spirit, standing as a guardian of the values they cherished. Even in the darkest moments, when doubt crept into the hearts of those around them, Layla's kindness was a steady flame. She understood the power of forgiveness, the importance of mercy, and the deep healing that comes from compassion. Through her actions, she taught that true strength lies in gentleness, and that love can transform even the hardest of hearts. Stories of Layla's generosity and warmth spread beyond the palace walls. People spoke of her quiet deeds, the secret baskets of food left for those in need, the soothing songs sung softly in the night to comfort the frightened, and the smiles that never failed to bring hope. To the kingdom, she was more than a queen. She was a mother of dreams and a beacon of peace, a living reminder that kindness is the most enduring legacy. As Sultan Amir's final days approached, Layla's heart held both sorrow and grace. She stayed by his side, a gentle light in the fading dusk, her love a soft embrace that eased his journey, When he passed peacefully and surrounded by the love they had nurtured together, the kingdom mourned deeply but also celebrated the life of a woman whose spirit had touched so many. Layla continued to live as a symbol of compassion and strength. In quiet ways, she carried forward the lessons of love and kindness, reminding all who knew her that true beauty is found in a heart that cares. Her story is told as a lullaby, a gentle whisper that encourages every listener to carry kindness in their own lives. So now, as you prepare to rest your head and drift into dreams, let the story of Layla's gentle heart and unwavering love surround you like a warm embrace. May her grace guide you softly into a night filled with peace, where every breath is calm and every dream is sweet. Sleep well, dear dreamer, sweet dreams. Queen Zainab, the Sultan's elder wife, proud and ambitious. In the grand palace where Sultan Amir ruled with wisdom and fairness, Queen Zainab stood as a figure of strength and ambition. She was the Sultan's elder wife, known for her proud spirit and unyielding determination. Her story did not begin in the palace halls, but far away in a land of rugged hills and ancient traditions, where she was born into a noble family whose name carried weight and respect. From her earliest days, Zainab was taught the value of power and dignity. Her parents, stern and proud, expected much from their only daughter. She learned to hold her head high, to speak with clarity and confidence, and to never shy away from her rightful place in the world. Though her childhood was marked by strict lessons and lofty expectations, it was also filled with moments of quiet beauty, the golden light of dawn over the hills, the soft rustling of trees in the breeze, and the warm touch of a mother's hand reassuring her in times of doubt. These moments shaped her, balancing the fire of her ambition with a sense of purpose. As she grew, Zainab's mind sharpened, and her resolve hardened. She dreamed not just of power, but of leaving a mark that would be remembered for generations. When the opportunity came for her to join the Sultan's court, she stepped forward with the confidence of a woman who knew her worth. To enter the palace was to enter a new world, one of grandeur and danger, where every smile might hide a secret, and every word could shape the fate of kingdoms. In those early days, Zainab moved through the palace with the grace of a queen and the strategy of a seasoned leader. She won the respect of courtiers and advisers, not just with her noble birth, but with a keen intellect and an unwavering sense of purpose. Though her pride was evident, it was tempered by a deep commitment to the kingdom's well-being. She believed that her ambition was a gift meant to serve a greater good, that through strong leadership the realm could thrive and remain secure. For a time, the palace was filled with hope and possibility. Zainab worked alongside the Sultan, her influence growing steadily. She helped craft policies, guided decisions, and offered counsel in times of uncertainty. The people admired her for her strength, and even those who feared her ambition could not deny her dedication. Yet, as the seasons changed, so did the nature of her rule. The responsibilities and pressures of power began to weigh heavily, and the sharp edges of her pride grew more pronounced. There came a turning point when Zainab's ambition began to blur the lines between duty and desire. The palace, once a place of harmony, became a stage for subtle rivalries and whispered intrigues. Her drive for control sometimes led her to act with a sternness that chilled those who once called her friend. The warmth she had shown in earlier days was replaced by a cold determination to secure her position at any cost. Even the Sultan found himself at times distant, caught between love and the demands of governance. During this darker chapter, stories spread of Zainab's fierce tactics. She negotiated alliances with a calculating mind, and when necessary she did not hesitate to silence opposition. While her actions ensured the stability of the realm in turbulent times, they also sowed seeds of fear and resentment. Her reign was marked by moments of harshness, where the balance between justice and power tipped precariously. Yet beneath this hardened exterior, there remained a woman who longed for peace, struggling with the loneliness that often accompanies great ambition. The years that followed were a test of endurance. Zainab faced both triumph and isolation. She witnessed the changing tides of fortune as friends became rivals, and the palace echoed with the footsteps of those who plotted in shadows. Still, she stood firm, a pillar of strength in a world of uncertainty. Her proud heart refused to yield, even as it bore the scars of sacrifice. As Sultan Amir's health waned, Zainab found herself reflecting deeply on her journey. She remembered the girl who had once gazed at the horizon with dreams of glory, and the woman she had become, a queen whose legacy was etched in both honour and hardship. Though ambition had driven her forward, she now understood the delicate balance between power and compassion. In the quiet moments before the Sultan's passing, she offered him not only loyalty but forgiveness, a final gift to the man she had loved and challenged. With the Sultan's peaceful departure, the kingdom entered a new era. Zainab remained a figure of respect and remembrance, her story told in whispers and songs. She became a symbol of ambition's power and its price, a reminder that greatness often demands courage as well as humility. Through her life, the people learned that pride must walk hand in hand with kindness, and that even the most formidable hearts can find grace. Now, as you close your eyes and prepare to journey into dreams, let Queen Zainab's story wrap you gently in its quiet strength. May her tale of pride, ambition, and ultimate reflection soothe your mind and inspire your heart to seek balance and peace. Rest easy, knowing that even the boldest souls find rest beneath the same stars that watch over you tonight. Sleep well, dear dreamer. Sweet dreams. Prince Hassan, the Sultan and Layla's brave son. In the heart of a vast and flourishing kingdom ruled by the wise Sultan Amir and his beloved wife Layla, a young prince named Hassan was born. From the moment he entered the world, the palace was filled with celebration and hope. The people whispered that this brave son would one day carry the legacy of his parents, the strength of his father's justice, and the warmth of his mother's kindness. Born into this noble lineage, Hassan's childhood was a tapestry of love, learning, and early lessons that quietly prepared him for the weighty path ahead. As a child, Hassan's days were filled with wonder and discovery. The grand palace gardens became his sanctuary, where he ran freely beneath the shade of ancient olive trees and chased after butterflies glistening in the sun. But alongside his youthful joy, there was always a gentle understanding growing within him that his life was intertwined with the fate of the kingdom. His mother, Layla, with her tender heart and radiant beauty, often sat with him beneath the stars, telling stories of honour, bravery, and the delicate balance between strength and compassion. His father, Sultan Amir, taught him with steady patience the virtues of wisdom, justice, and courage. These moments nurtured Hassan's spirit, shaping him into a boy who would grow to be both brave and gentle. Hassan's rise to prominence was not marked by sudden glory or overwhelming force, but by steady courage and quiet humility. Unlike many young princes who might seek to prove themselves through display and conquest, Hassan earned his place through his actions and his heart. As he grew, he showed an uncommon bravery not just in training with the sword or riding fearlessly across the kingdom's vast deserts, but in his deep care for the people who lived under his family's rule. He listened to their stories, comforted their fears, and promised a future where justice would be a guiding light. His rise was like the gentle unfolding of dawn, slowly brightening the horizon with hope. In the early days of his role as a leader in training, Hassan inspired both the palace court and the common folk. His presence brought a calm assurance, a promise that the future would be guided by kindness as much as strength. Tales spread of the young prince who would walk among the villagers, helping where he could, repairing fences, sharing meals, and learning the rhythms of daily life. His youthful optimism was contagious, and many believed that under his watchful eye, the kingdom would flourish as never before. But as with all great journeys, a turning point came when the weight of responsibility and the shadow of challenge settled upon Hassan's shoulders. The kingdom faced threats from beyond its borders, rival kingdoms jealous of its peace and prosperity, and unrest brewed within, fueled by whispers of dissent and unrest. These times tested the young prince's spirit. The boy who once laughed freely in the palace gardens now had to face the harsh realities of leadership. Yet, it was precisely in these moments of uncertainty that Hassan's true bravery shone. Rather than allowing fear or anger to rule him, he sought wisdom in counsel and strength in compassion. Though the burden was heavy, his heart remained steadfast. The years that followed were filled with trials and triumphs. Prince Hassan led his people through difficult times with a steady hand. His courage was not only shown in the battlefield, where he defended the kingdom's borders with fierce determination, but also in the council chambers, where he worked tirelessly to mend divisions and foster unity. Stories of his bravery spread far and wide, how he faced enemies with unwavering resolve, and yet also extended a hand to former foes in the spirit of peace. Through wars and negotiations, victories and setbacks, Hassan remained a symbol of hope and endurance. Yet even the bravest hearts face moments of darkness. There were times when Hassan's reign was shadowed by loss and hardship. Trusted allies faltered, betrayals whispered through the corridors of the palace, and the prince endured grief that few could bear. The burden of leadership was heavy, and at times it seemed to weigh on his very soul. But what made Hassan truly remarkable was his refusal to be broken. With every challenge he found new strength, a deeper well of courage, born not from pride, but from love for his people and a sincere desire to protect them. As the seasons passed, Prince Hassan matured into a wise and compassionate leader, carrying forward the legacy of his parents. The lessons of his father's justice and his mother's kindness lived in every decision he made. Though his journey was filled with hardships, it was also rich with moments of beauty, peaceful mornings watching the sunrise over the golden dunes, quiet conversations with those he trusted, and the laughter of children playing in the palace courtyards. His story became one told by firesides, a reminder that true bravery is found in the heart's resilience and the courage to lead with compassion. When the time came for his reign to end, Hassan did so with honour and grace. His legacy was one of hope, courage and kindness, a shining example to those who would come after. As the sun set on his days, the kingdom knew that their brave prince had fulfilled the promise of his birth, not through conquest or power alone, but through a steady, gentle strength that inspired all who knew his story. Now, as you lay your head down and the world quiets around you, imagine Prince Hassan standing beneath a blanket of stars, his heart steady and full of peace. Let his story lull you softly into a restful sleep, reminding you that within each of us lies the courage to face challenges and the kindness to brighten the world. Breathe in the calm of the night and let your dreams carry you gently, as if wrapped in the embrace of a brave and loving heart. Sleep well, dear dreamer. May your night be filled with peace, your heart with courage, and your dreams with endless hope. Sweet dreams. Princess Noor, the gentle daughter of the Sultan and Layla. In the heart of the vast and peaceful kingdom, ruled by the wise Sultan Amir and his beloved wife Layla, a gentle princess named Noor was born. From the very first moment, Noor was a soft light in the palace, a quiet presence that filled every corner with warmth and calm. Her earliest days were spent cradled in the loving arms of her mother Layla, whose kindness and grace became the foundation upon which Noor's gentle spirit grew. The palace gardens, with their fragrant jasmine and blooming roses, became Noor's sanctuary, a place where she wandered barefoot beneath the soft glow of the sun, her curious eyes drinking in the colours and sounds of nature. As a child, Noor was quiet and observant, preferring the company of animals and books to the noisy bustle of court life. She would sit for hours beneath the shade of ancient olive trees, tracing patterns in the sand or listening to the soft whispers of the wind. Her father, Sultan Amir, often watched her with a smile, seeing in her the same thoughtful wisdom that guided his rule. Layla would gently teach Noor the importance of compassion, reminding her that true strength lies in the kindness we show to others, especially those who have little. These lessons took root deep within Noor's heart, shaping her into a young woman who radiated calm and gentleness. Noor's rise within the kingdom was not one of grand displays or dramatic moments, but a steady unfolding of a quiet strength that touched everyone she met. The villagers would speak softly of the princess who always found time to listen, who never turned away a pleading hand, and who moved through the palace like a soft breeze, soothing tempers and healing wounds without uttering a harsh word. She was loved not for grandeur or power, but for the gentle light she brought into people's lives. Her presence alone was enough to calm restless hearts and quiet troubled minds. In her early days among the court, Noor's kindness became a bridge between the nobles and the common folk. She was known for visiting the village quietly, sharing food with the hungry and helping care for the sick. The palace staff admired her humility and grace, and even the animals of the kingdom seemed drawn to her warmth. Noor dreamed of a kingdom where all could live in harmony, where disputes were settled with understanding rather than anger, and where every soul felt valued and cared for. Her soft voice and steady heart were a balm to many, inspiring hope in even the darkest times. Yet, as the seasons turned, Noor's gentle world was touched by shadows. The kingdom faced unrest, rival lords seeking to seize power, harsh droughts that withered crops, and moments of sorrow that tested even the strongest hearts. Noor could have been overwhelmed by the weight of these troubles, but instead she found within herself a deeper well of courage. When storms raged outside the palace walls, she stood firm within, offering comfort and hope. Her gentle touch soothed the fears of children during dark nights, and her words, soft and wise, reminded the people that even the fiercest storms must pass. These challenges shaped Noor, teaching her that gentleness and strength are not opposites, but two sides of the same coin. When difficult decisions had to be made, she offered calm counsel, reminding leaders that true power comes from serving others with love and humility. Noor's heart remained open even in hardship, and her example showed that kindness could be a powerful shield against cruelty and despair. As years passed, Noor's influence spread like a gentle breeze across the kingdom. She became a symbol of peace and healing, the princess whose presence could mend broken bonds and whose smile could brighten the darkest days. She organized gardens where herbs and flowers grew to heal the sick, and led efforts to share food with those in need. Her touch was gentle, but her impact was deep, reaching every corner of the land. Even the harshest critics softened when faced with her genuine care and unwavering kindness. Despite the trials she faced, Noor's spirit never wavered. The losses she endured and the burdens she carried were heavy, yet she bore them with quiet dignity. Her strength was like the roots of the olive tree, unseen but unbreakable, holding firm through storms. She taught those around her that compassion is the greatest courage of all, and that even the smallest acts of kindness can change the course of a life. When the time came for Noor to step into new roles of leadership, she did so with the same gentle grace that had defined her entire life. Her legacy was one of peace, hope, and boundless compassion, a shining light for generations to come. Stories of Princess Noor became lullabies sung by mothers to their children, tales of a gentle soul who could calm tempests with a touch and bring warmth to even the coldest nights. Now, as your eyes grow heavy and the quiet night wraps around you like a soft shawl, imagine Princess Noor standing beneath a sky full of shimmering stars. Feel the calm she carries in her heart, a calm that flows gently into yours. Let her story soothe your mind and cradle your dreams, wrapping you in peace and kindness. Breathe deeply, sink into your bed, and drift on the gentle waves of this quiet tale. Sleep well, dear dreamer. May your night be filled with serene whispers, your heart wrapped in gentle warmth, and your dreams as soft and bright as the moonlight on a peaceful kingdom. Good night and sweet dreams. Narsinsa. Grand Vizier Karim, the Sultan's loyal advisor and strategist. In a time when the moon glowed softly over golden domes and the kingdom slumbered in peace, there lived a man whose name was spoken with quiet respect in every corridor of the palace, Grand Vizier Karim. He was not born into nobility, nor did he seek grandeur. Yet from the moment he first opened his eyes beneath the modest roof of his parents' home, there was something different in him, a gaze that lingered longer, listened deeper, and sought wisdom not in noise, but in stillness. Karim's childhood was humble, painted in the warm tones of village life, the laughter of neighbours, the hush of desert winds whispering through the olive groves, and the gentle creak of old wooden doors. He spent his youth among scrolls and shadows, guided by his grandfather, who taught him that silence can hold more power than speeches, and that a wise man never stops learning, even in his sleep. Karim read under stars and wrote with his heart, drawing from ancient texts, prophets' parables, and the quiet pain of people around him. His mind became a river deep, clear, always flowing forward. By the time he entered the palace, Karim was still young, but his words already carried the weight of a man twice his age. Sultan Amir, then newly crowned, saw something in the young scholar that few recognized, the makings of a man who could shape futures without ever raising his voice. In hushed chambers and moonlit meetings, Karim's counsel began to guide the course of the realm. His rise was not heralded with trumpets, but with nods of approval, problems solved before they grew, and peace maintained where conflict threatened. He became more than an advisor. He was a mirror for the Sultan's conscience, a compass in times of confusion. The affairs of state treaties, conflicts, rebellions, and reforms all passed through his hands. Yet never once did Karim seek to shine. He preferred the quiet of candlelit scrolls and late-night walks through the palace garden, where the lilies bloomed white as snow and the air smelled of lemon blossoms. The early years of his service brought harmony. With Karim's strategies, the kingdom prospered not through conquest, but through understanding. Trade flowed, borders held firm, and disputes were dissolved with graceful words rather than steel. The people lived without fear, and nobles learned to respect a man who wielded knowledge sharper than any blade. Still, it was not perfection. Beneath the polished marble of the court, envy stirred. There came a time when threats rose like smoke, subtle, curling and easy to ignore until they filled the halls. Whispers bloomed like nightshade, that Karim held too much sway, that a man so close to the Sultan must surely want the throne himself, but Karim never wavered. When accused, he answered with calm clarity. When doubted, he served with even more humility. When threatened, he simply smiled and offered tea to his enemies. For Karim had no thirst for power. His heart was devoted only to the kingdom and to the vision of peace he shared with his sovereign. Through these storms, he never abandoned the people. When famine touched the outer provinces, he rode for days to oversee relief with his own hands. When floods swept villages away, he opened royal granaries without waiting for permission. He believed that to serve the Sultan was not just to serve the crown, but to serve the soul of the nation. People in distant towns who had never seen his face spoke of him with reverence, calling him the Sultan's wisdom made flesh. Years passed. His beard turned silver, his footsteps slowed, yet his mind remained as crisp as the autumn wind. He trained younger scholars, mentored future advisors, and left behind pages upon pages of writings not of war or wealth, but of balance, honour, and duty. He had become the quiet heartbeat of the palace, the evening voice of reason, the man the stars themselves seemed to listen to. And in the twilight of his life, Karim sat in the palace courtyard beneath a canopy of stars that shimmered like jewels on deep blue silk. Around him, the world was quiet not because it was asleep, but because it was at peace. The kingdom stood tall, not on the shoulders of warriors, but on the wisdom of a man who chose truth over glory and grace over ambition. Now, as your eyes grow heavy and the hush of night settles like silk upon your skin, imagine Grand Vizier Karim seated by a lantern's warm glow, his ink-stained hands resting gently on ancient scrolls, a soft smile playing on his lips. The same calm that steadied empires now reaches for you not to instruct but to comfort. His story is not just one of history, but of harmony. Let your thoughts drift gently with the rhythm of his quiet footsteps in palace halls. Let his patience temper your restlessness, and his loyalty remind you that true greatness comes not from being seen, but from the peace one leaves behind. Sleep well, dear soul of the night. May the wisdom of Karim cradle your dreams. May your thoughts soften like water under moonlight. And may your journey through sleep be as peaceful as the heart of the Sultan's most loyal friend. Good night, and may serenity walk beside you until morning. Royal Guard Captain Samir, fierce protector of the palace. Long ago, beneath the endless silver sky of the desert, a boy was born beneath a roof of wood and reed, a quiet child with eyes like twilight and a heart that beat to the rhythms of purpose. His name was Samir. The sands whispered his name before the cities did. In the village of his birth, life was not easy, but it was honest. He chased shadows with laughter in his voice and grew tall under the watchful gaze of the sun. His father was a soldier, his hands calloused by war, his voice low but wise. His mother was warmth wrapped in silence, teaching him the language of stillness and the strength of listening before speaking. By the time he could lift a blade, Samir understood something that many men twice his age never did, that true strength did not live in the arm, but in the soul that carried it. Word of him spread not through stories of glory, but through tales of quiet bravery. He defended the weak before he was told to. He rode into storms when others turned back. And when a caravan was attacked by bandits in the dry canyon passes, it was the young Samir who stood blooded but unbroken, shielding strangers with nothing but sheer will and an old sword. His name reached the palace long before he did. The Sultan, ever in search of true loyalty, summoned the boy, now a man, to the capital. There, among marble halls and shimmering lanterns, Samir's world changed. He trained under generals and old warriors, learned the codes of the palace, the rhythm of diplomacy, and the eyes of liars. But he never lost the silence of his soul. Even among gold and silk he remained grounded, a stone that could not be moved no matter the wind. He did not climb with ambition. He climbed with discipline, integrity, and fire tempered by calm. In time he became the Royal Guard's captain, chosen not because he was the strongest, but because he never asked to be chosen. Under his command, the palace became more than protected, it became sacred. His guards marched not with pride, but with purpose. Their loyalty was to the realm, but more deeply to the vision Samir carried: peace through vigilance, safety through sacrifice. The Sultan trusted him with more than doors and swords. He trusted him with his children, his wife, his secrets. And Samir held each responsibility like a sacred ember, never letting it fade, never letting it burn him. But peace, even in golden kingdoms, is a fragile thing. Whispers grew in the court rumours wrapped in perfume and silk, sharpened with envy and ambition. Some feared Samir's closeness to the throne, others resented his incorruptibility. Shadows gathered behind curtains, and smiles became masks. And then, one moonless night, betrayal took shape. A band of traitors slipped into the palace, their steps silent, their blades cold. Their target was the Sultan, and they nearly reached him. But Samir was already awake. He intercepted them in the garden courtyard, where the fountains whispered and the moon slept behind clouds. Steel clashed in the silence. He moved like a windstorm blade singing through the night. Wounds opened on his arms, his chest, but he did not fall. His only thought was the Sultan, the family, the promise. By the time the traitors lay defeated, the courtyard smelled of iron and jasmine. Samir bled, but he lived. So did the realm. He never spoke of that night. Years passed, and Samir remained a sentinel of flesh and bone. He taught the younger guards not how to kill, but how to protect, not how to obey, but how to understand. He walked the walls at dusk, watched stars fall, and kept his sword sharp, though rarely used. People said he never slept, that he was carved from stone, a living statue that guarded dreams. But in truth, Samir did sleep. Not long, and not often. But when he did, he dreamed of the desert, of laughter, of his mother's hands braiding his hair, and the scent of cardamom from his childhood home. Time, slow and soft, placed silver in his beard and softness in his stride. He stepped back from duty without fanfare, offering his place to a younger captain, but even then, the palace still breathed easier knowing he walked its halls. He became the final stop for counsel, the quiet voice that calmed fears during storms, the last watchman before dawn. He never married. He said his love belonged to the realm, and that was enough. And now, as the stars blink awake and the world tilts gently into stillness, Samir's spirit lingers like a gentle breeze. He stands beneath the lanterns of your imagination, watching quietly not as a warrior, not as a captain, but as a guardian of peace. Let his presence wrap around you now. Let your breathing slow with his rhythm. Let your heart feel his protection. Let your dreams begin in the safety of his shadow where no harm can reach and no fear can stay. Sleep, dear soul, knowing that you are guarded, even in dreams. Samir stands by the door of the night, and nothing shall pass that does not bring you peace. Sleep well, dear dreamer. May your slumber be deep, your heart light, and your dreams safe beneath the eternal watch of Captain Samir. Court jester, Jalil brings laughter to the royal court. In a time when the palace shone with gold and whispered with secrets, there lived a man whose gift was neither sword nor scroll, but laughter. His name was Jalil, and though his shoes curled at the toes and bells rang lightly at his ankles, his presence carried more magic than many ministers or generals. Jalil was not born to silk or title. His childhood was marked by dust, by alleyways that echoed with music and mischief, and by a mother who sang lullabies even when her belly rumbled with hunger. His father was a musician in the town square, plucking melodies from an old stringed oud with missing frets, making broken tunes sound whole again. From them, Jalil learned the rhythm of joy, even in sorrow, and the art of finding light when the world grew dark. As a boy, he would mimic birds, dance on crates, and make neighbours laugh until their burdens grew a little lighter. Even grief softened in his presence. He wore a patched-up tunic and shoes that squeaked when he walked. But it was not the clothes that caught the eye. It was his spirit, free and full of strange wisdom. He could turn a cruel merchant's scowl into a snort of laughter, and make a crying child forget the scrape on their knee with a single cross-eyed expression. One day, the Sultan's royal procession passed through Jalil's village. As dignitaries and guards marched with solemn grace, Jalil darted ahead, tumbling into their path, spinning on his hands, mimicking the puffed-up nobles with a feather stuck to his nose. The people laughed. The guards reached for their blades, but the Sultan, amused and intrigued, halted them with a raised hand. He watched the barefoot boy bow dramatically, juggling apples stolen from a vendor's cart, and said only, "Bring him to the palace." Jalil's rise was not through strategy or steel. It was through the oldest magic in the world, laughter. Within the palace walls, his antics became legend. He did not just entertain, he disarmed. In council meetings tense with politics, He would interject with a limerick or an outrageous impression, and somehow tempers cooled. His painted smile masked a brilliant mind. Behind each jest was a question. Behind each dance, a mirror. In the early days, he danced more than he spoke, but soon his words became as sharp as any sword in the guards' barracks. With humour he pointed out the foolishness of war, the absurdity of greed, the vanity of those who sought power without wisdom. The Sultan, wise enough to recognise the value of uncomfortable truths dressed in jokes, made Jalil a fixture of the court, not just a jester, but a watcher, a whisperer, a keeper of balance. For a time, Jalil's presence brought light to every chamber. Children adored him. Servants found comfort in his midnight stories, and even Queen Zainab, whose pride rarely cracked, once chuckled so hard at one of his impersonations that she spilled her tea. The world, within those palace walls, felt lighter when Jalil was near. But as years passed, the kingdom faced dark days. The crops failed, the court grew suspicious and cold, whispers of rebellion slithered through banquet halls. Even laughter began to feel like a luxury, something fragile and easily broken. And in that silence, Jalil's smile began to fade. He still wore the bells, still painted his face, but his eyes dimmed. There was a moment, a turning point few noticed but all felt. A visiting dignitary insulted the Sultan during a feast, and the court tensed like a bowstring. All eyes turned to Jalil. Slowly he stood, and instead of mockery he told a quiet tale, a parable about a proud eagle who mistook his reflection for a rival. His voice trembled, his words echoed, and when he finished there was no laughter, only stillness. The Sultan bowed his head in understanding. In that moment Jalil became something else, not merely a jester but a soul who held the palace together with invisible thread. Yet laughter cannot heal everything. Over time his body began to ache, and his energy waned. He trained younger fools, taught them timing, tone, and the power of silence. But none had his spark. Still, Jalil bore no bitterness. Every laugh, he once whispered to the young Princess Noor, is a light lit in the dark. If I've lit enough of them, I can rest in peace. He performed one final time on the Sultan's birthday. With a crown of daisies, he told a story that made the guards cry with laughter and the royals weep with joy. At the end, he bowed low, kissed the floor, and walked out into the courtyard under the stars. He did not return the next morning. Some say he slipped away in the night to perform for the stars. Others believe he still wanders, faceless, across kingdoms, making queens laugh and beggars smile. But those who knew him, those who truly saw him, believe this, that Jalil became laughter itself, that each child's giggle, each kind-hearted jest, each moment of unexpected joy carries a whisper of his soul. And now, as your eyes grow heavy and the quiet of the evening wraps around you like velvet, let Jalil's spirit drift beside you. Let his story soothe your worries, his mischief dissolve your tension. Let the wisdom hidden in his foolishness remind you that not all heroes wear armour, some wear bells and carry joy like a torch in the dark. So sleep, dear traveller of tales. Let the echoes of Jalil's laughter carry you softly through the realm of dreams. Smile in your slumber, knowing that somewhere, even now, laughter lives because of him. Sleep well, noble dreamer. May your night be light, your heart be lifted, and may your dreams dance gently in the company of the jester who knew the secret, that joy is the most enduring kind of power. Good night. Wise old healer, Fatima heals the sick and gives wise counsel. In the far reaches of the palace gardens, past the jasmine vines, and beneath the shade of olive trees, there lived a woman named Fatima, older than most could remember, wiser than any dared to measure, and gentler than the morning sun upon dew-kissed leaves. No one knew quite when she arrived. Some claimed she was born in the year the Sultan's father took the throne. Others whispered that she simply appeared one day, barefoot, with herbs in her satchel and stars in her eyes. Her skin was soft and wrinkled like old parchment, her hands lined with stories of 100 lives tended. But her smile, her smile was the sort that made even the fiercest guards feel like children again. Fatima was not a noble. She never wore silk. She never sat at feasts. But if someone was ill, body, mind or heart, they would find their way to her. It was said her hut at the garden's edge smelled always of rosemary, rosewater, and the earth after rain. Sick children were carried to her arms, and frightened queens came by night when sleep would not find them. She healed with potions and poultices, yes, but also with listening, with lullabies no one else remembered, with stories that stitched hope into even the darkest minds. She had learned the art of healing not from books, but from life itself, from the mountains where she'd once gathered snow lilies to soothe fevers, from the deep woods where the foxes whispered secrets of medicinal roots. As a girl, she had tended her dying grandmother's bed with only a candle and courage. As a young woman, she'd braved a plague alone, walking from tent to tent, saving who she could. Death knew her name, but never dared take her lightly. In time, word of Fatima reached the Sultan's court. Not through proclamation, but through experience. She cured his daughter's cough when the royal physicians had failed. She eased Queen Layla's labour with a touch and a chant. Even the gruff Captain Samir bowed his head to her, once confessing, "I would rather walk into battle than argue with Fatima's remedies." And so she became the quiet soul of the palace. She never sought power, but when power trembled, it came to her. Viziers asked her to bless treaties. The Sultan once delayed war to consult her dreams. When hunger struck the outer villages, it was Fatima who designed the ration plans, ensuring no child starved on her watch. Her early years in the palace were marked by wonder, people discovering she was not just a healer of wounds, but of hearts. She knew which words mended a grieving widow, and which herbs soothed a soldier's nightmares. People trusted her with their secrets, and she never broke that trust. She became more than a woman. She became a symbol of grace, of continuity. But even the warmest hearth must feel the winter's chill. There came a time when new ministers viewed her as too old. They called her ways outdated, her remedies superstition. Younger physicians arrived with foreign books and rigid charts. Fatima, ever calm, simply smiled and taught them the power of touch, of patience, of truly seeing the person behind the ailment. Still, some whispered, her quiet power unnerved those who clung to titles. And then came a day when the Sultan grew gravely ill. The court panicked. Foreign doctors bled him, fed him poisons disguised as cures. Fatima waited. When all others failed, they summoned her, not with fanfare, but desperation. She entered with a bowl of broth, herbs wrapped in silk and words woven like prayer. She did not promise a cure. She simply sat, whispered softly, and bathed his feet. And slowly, as if the sickness feared her calm, the Sultan returned to the land of breath and thought. She never asked for reward. Years passed like falling petals. Fatima began to walk slower, sleep earlier. But even in age, her light did not dim. She trained young girls in her craft, told stories to orphans beneath fig trees, and every night she lit a candle for those who had no one to remember them. She had no husband, no children of blood, but the palace, the kingdom, they were her family. And now, dear listener, if you listen closely tonight, you might still hear her steps in the corridor of dreams. You might smell rosemary and warm tea in the air, and feel a gentle hand brush the worry from your brow. Let yourself rest now. Let the warmth of her fire wrap around your heart. Let your breathing slow like the waves of a calm sea. Let every ache soften, every thought settle, every fear dissolve. For Fatima watches still, not from a tower, not from a throne, but from the quiet place within you where hope lives. Sleep well, dear one, you are safe, you are seen, and you are healed. Close your eyes, and may her wisdom carry you gently into the land where nothing hurts and everything glows with peace. Good night, gentle dreamer. May the healer's spirit guard your dreams like stars guard the sky. Let go now and rest. Merchant Rashid, wealthy trader who visits from distant lands. In a city where the minarets kissed the clouds and the harbour sang with sails from every corner of the world, there once lived a merchant named Rashid. His name fluttered from spice markets to royal courts like a whisper woven with gold, and wherever it travelled, it brought with it tales of riches, silks, strange spices, and secrets from lands beyond the horizon. But Rashid had not always been surrounded by treasure. He was born in the narrow alleys of a sun-bleached port, the son of a humble sailor and a woman who sold dried dates by the roadside. As a boy, he played with stones and string, listened to sailors speak of monstrous waves and glowing cities, and dreamed, not of war or glory, but of journeys. By the age of 12, he could name every port in the Eastern Sea. By 16, he'd saved enough to board a ship bound for a distant land. He worked as a cook's assistant, burning his hands, swabbing decks, mending sails. He listened, he watched, he remembered. And when he returned many years later, he was no longer a boy with salt-tangled hair. He was a man dressed in cloth that shimmered like water, with eyes that had seen the snow of the north and the jungles of the south. His rise was swift and silent. Rashid bought, bartered, and blended wisdom with instinct. He traded rare gems for ink scrolls, camels for coral, salt for silk. And unlike other merchants, he never cheated the poor, never mocked the struggling. He built his fortune not just on goods, but on trust. Soon, Rashid's caravans stretched like rivers across deserts. His ships dotted the sea like stars across the night. The palace gates opened for him. Even Sultan Amir welcomed him with warm words and deeper curiosity. At court feasts, Rashid was seated among princes, yet he never forgot the taste of his mother's dates or the rhythm of the waves that raised him. For a time all things seemed to smile upon him. Children ran beside his horses hoping for sweets from distant islands. Poets sang of his voyages. He built schools in towns that had none. He brought books to the palace from lands where people wrote with brushes and ink made of crushed blossoms. His tales of volcanoes, floating markets, and fireflies that lit entire trees made even Princess Noor gasp in wonder. But riches, like tides, come and go. As the years flowed, Rashid grew restless. He desired not just trade, but legacy. He made a fateful decision to invest all he had in one final journey, a fleet bound for a land whispered of in legends, a place beyond known maps, past sea monsters and singing winds. The ship set sail under the full moon, their sails blessed with prayers from every faith. Weeks passed, then months, then silence. Storms rose in strange seas. A few battered vessels returned, most did not. When Rashid stepped back onto his homeland's shore, he was a changed man, thinner, quieter, rich in experience but poor in goods. His final voyage had not yielded rubies or gold, but loss. He did not speak of what he had seen. Some say he encountered creatures of mist. Others say he found an island of mirrors and saw his soul. What mattered was this: Rashid never traded again. He sold his last caravan and built a vast garden on the palace's edge. In it grew every plant he'd ever seen: cactus from the west, bamboo from the east, flowers that bloomed only under moonlight. Children came to play, travellers came to listen. Rashid told stories, not of profit but of people, of moments, of lessons whispered by wind and wave. He was no longer a merchant but a teacher, a memory keeper. And when the time came for him to leave this world, he did so under a sky full of stars. lying beneath a fig tree in the garden he'd planted with his own hands. His death was quiet, his absence deeply felt. Today, people still speak his name, not for the gold he brought, but for the bridges he built between distant shores and silent hearts. In the marketplace, an old merchant might offer a smile and say, "Rashid would have given you more." In the palace, children read scrolls he once carried, and in every harbour someone whispers of the man who chased the edge of the world. And now, dear dreamer, as your eyes grow heavy and your breath slows, imagine yourself walking beside Rashid on a golden beach, listening to waves hum stories older than time. Let your worries drift like ships at sea. Let your thoughts curl like sails in wind. You are safe here, in the company of those who wandered, wondered, and returned wiser. Sleep well, traveller of tales. May dreams carry you gently across calm waters, and may your heart find treasures no storm can take. Good night. The sea is calm, the stars are waiting. And somewhere Rashid smiles, forever sailing beyond the edge of the known, guiding you softly into your own horizon of dreams. Poet Rumi recites beautiful verses in the palace garden. There was a time in the kingdom when the wind itself seemed to pause near the palace gardens, as if it too wished to listen. For there, under the weeping boughs of the willow trees, a man named Rumi sat each morning, his eyes half closed, his hands folded gently in his lap. He did not command armies, he did not hold court, he held only words, words that shimmered like morning dew and soothed like jasmine tea at twilight. No one quite knew where Rumi came from. He arrived one spring, barefoot and smiling, carrying only a satchel of parchment and a wooden flute carved with tiny moons. The guards at the palace gate had stopped him, at first confused by his appearance. But before they could ask his business, he'd spoken a single line. If the soul is a flame, then words are its smoke. And the silence that followed was enough. He was welcomed not by decree but by presence. For the kingdom had long been at war, not with enemies but with unrest. The people had food but little peace. They had riches but little reflection. And Rumi, with his gentle voice and endless poems, became a lantern in the dusk. He was given no official title, but the palace began calling him the Whisperer of Stillness. Every morning he would sit beneath the oldest olive tree in the garden, reciting verses aloud. Sometimes to an audience, sometimes to the wind. The birds would gather on branches. Princess Noor once said the roses bloomed faster when Rumi spoke. His early days in the kingdom were filled with awe and joy. Children followed him like petals on a breeze. Queen Layla often came to listen in secret, resting beneath a veil while he spoke of longing and love. Even the stern Captain Samir once confessed that Rumi's words had helped him sleep after years of battle dreams. Rumi's poems were unlike any other. They didn't preach, they flowed. They sang of rivers that forget their name, of stars that miss their home, of hearts that tremble before they bloom. His verses danced through the air like incense, soft, sacred, slow. Yet, as always, the heart's path is never straight. There came a time when the court grew restless. Ministers whispered that Rumi distracted the people, that he wasted hours with rhyme while treaties awaited signatures, that poets were for festivals, not for matters of state. Some envied his closeness with the royal family, though Rumi asked for nothing, no gold, no lands, not even shoes. They tried to silence him gently at first, inviting him to fewer gatherings, moving him from the palace garden to a more distant courtyard. But Rumi did not mind. Even the moon is distant, he said, but it still makes the tides dance. Still, the pressure grew. One morning he was asked to stop reciting in public. His verses, they said, were too dreamy for the times. He bowed, said nothing, and stepped back from the gatherings. Yet every morning, alone under the olive tree, he continued to speak, his voice a thread connecting the earth to something softer above. He never protested. He never blamed. Instead, he turned inward. His poetry changed, not in beauty but in depth. Where once he sang of spring, he now spoke of stillness, of the silence beneath the waves, of the unseen hands that carry us when we fall. He was no longer a poet for crowds, but a soul for those in search. Years passed like verses, quiet and flowing. One winter the garden remained empty, the tree stood still, and Rumi's place beneath it remained undisturbed. He had passed away in his sleep, parchment in hand, ink still drying on a final line. The heart is not bound by breath, it speaks in the silence we leave behind. The kingdom mourned, not with trumpets or marble statues, but with a silence so complete even the leaves refused to rustle. Children gathered beneath his tree and recited what lines they remembered. Queen Layla wept. The Sultan declared that Rumi's words would forever be etched in the palace stone, not to be praised, but to be felt. Today, if you walk through the garden at dawn, you might still hear a whisper in the wind, a line, a rhyme, a sigh of the soul. The olive tree blooms brighter than any other, and beneath it a stone reads only, "Here sat the one who taught silence to sing." And now, gentle dreamer, let Rumi's voice guide you into your own stillness. Breathe slowly, let your thoughts drift like petals down a gentle stream. The world can wait. Right now, there is only you and the rhythm of your heart and the quiet music of the stars. Let go of the day's noise. Let the garden of your mind bloom with peace. Feel the softness of sleep approaching like velvet nightfall. Sleep now, beloved listener. May your dreams be poems written on clouds. May your rest be as deep as a well of moonlight, and may Rumi's spirit walk beside you, reciting verses as you journey through this kingdom of dreams. Good night. The garden waits, the stars hum softly, and you are home. Slave girl Amina, loyal servant to Layla, secretly very clever. Long ago, in the heart of a desert kingdom where the sand kissed the palace walls and the moonlight spilled like milk across the domes, there lived a girl named Amina. She was born into chains, not of iron, but of circumstance, into a world where names were given, not chosen, and where voices were meant to stay soft, barely above whispers. Amina's earliest memories were of shadowed corridors and the warm scent of bread rising in the early hours. She belonged to no one, and yet she belonged to everyone. Passing trays to nobles, cleaning courtyards before sunrise, listening from behind silken curtains while others plotted their futures. But though she moved like a ghost through the grand palace, her mind was wide awake. Amina watched, Amina listened, and slowly she learned. She learned that the guards rotated every third hour, that the vizier had a habit of pacing when anxious, that Princess Noor sang in her sleep, and most of all, she learned the heart of her mistress, Lady Layla, the Sultan's favourite wife. Unlike others, Layla never raised her voice at Amina. She offered her figs from her own plate and asked how she slept at night. And in return, Amina gave her not only loyalty, but a sharp, quiet mind. She would sew, polish, fetch, but also gently offer a word here, a warning there. Layla began to notice. "You're clever," she once whispered as Amina brushed her hair. To which Amina only smiled, replying, "I listen more than I speak." And so a bond grew. In secret, Layla began teaching her letters. By moonlight, Amina practiced writing words in the air, tracing dreams across her blanket. She memorized poems, read history, and slowly, silently, built a library inside her mind. But cleverness in courts is both treasure and threat. One day, during a heated court debate, Layla offered a solution so wise and precise that even the Sultan paused. But the vizier frowned, suspicious. He had noticed that Layla had grown more confident, more strategic. Whispers began to rise. "She is advised," they said, "but by whom? eyes turned toward the quiet girl behind her, Amina. Jealousy is a sharper blade than truth, and in palaces accusations need no proof, only fear. Soon orders were given. Amina was to be transferred from Layla's chambers to the kitchen staff. Stripped of her silk robes, her quiet walks in gardens, her nights spent reading by candlelight. Layla wept but could not stop it. Her pleas were soft, and power is rarely merciful to those who serve in silence. Amina did not protest. She bowed her head, gathered her few belongings, just a comb, a tiny copper ring, and a folded poem hidden in her sleeve, and walked away with her dignity untouched. In the hot, smoky kitchens, she worked harder than before, stirring stew, scrubbing pans, counting herbs, but her mind stayed sharp. She memorized recipes like she had memorized maps, and soon her food was spoken of in whispers. She infused her dishes with healing herbs, with peace, with memory. Even Sultan Amir once tasted her lentil broth and remarked, "Whoever made this understands balance." Years passed. Amina grew from girl to woman, her spirit never dimmed. The palace had forgotten her name, but not her presence. When Layla's daughter, Princess Noor, fell ill, and no physician could find the cause, it was Amina, now older, quieter, who placed a hand on the girl's forehead and whispered, "It is not illness. She is homesick for the stars." And so they moved her bed to the roof, under the open sky, and Noor recovered within days. Amina had saved a princess, yet still she remained unnamed in scrolls, unpainted in palace murals. She passed like a breeze, felt but unseen. In her final years she taught the youngest servants to read. She passed her stories down, not in books but in songs and memory, and when she passed away, peacefully, under a fig tree in the servants' courtyard, every maid, every cook, every orphan who had grown in her shadow wept. The Sultan ordered her buried beneath that tree. No grand tomb, no gold, just a stone with an inscription carved by Layla's own hand. She listened, she learned, she lit the dark with quiet fire. To this day, some say that at dusk, when the wind rustles through the leaves, you can hear her voice, soft, patient, whispering truths to those too humble to be heard. And now, dear dreamer, as you rest beneath your own quiet stars, think of Amina, a girl not born to freedom, but one who made her mind free, who found power not in swords or crowns, but in listening, remembering, and loving fiercely in silence. Close your eyes, gentle soul. Let Amina's spirit sit beside you. Let her stories nest in your heart. For you too carry something quietly radiant inside, a wisdom that blooms softly in the dark. Sleep now without fear. The night watches over you, and in your dreams cleverness walks with kindness, always hand in hand. Good night, tender listener. May your dreams be vast, your heart light, and your soul wrapped in the warm hush of quiet heroes. You are safe, you are seen. Sleep well. Palace Cook, Jamal, creator of delicious royal feasts. In the heart of the royal palace, where courtyards bloomed with jasmine and the marble floors gleamed under moonlight, there stood a kitchen unlike any other. It was not grand in size nor golden in decoration, but it breathed with warmth, spice, and song. And at its centre moved a man named Jamal, a man who held no titles, but whose hands had built a legacy of taste, of comfort, of joy. Jamal had not been born into the palace. He was the son of a spice merchant and a seamstress, raised in a quiet town where the streets always smelled like cumin and rosewater. As a boy, he would sneak into his mother's kitchen, tasting the stew before it was done, stealing spoonfuls of honey while pretending to help. His father used to say, "He's got a tongue blessed by the gods. He can taste what the stars would cook if they had pans." He never went to school, never learned swordplay or poetry, but he could remember every flavour he ever tasted. He knew which herbs calmed the stomach, which spices could lift a weary heart, and how to make even leftover lentils taste like a royal dish. One fateful day, when a royal caravan passed through his village, a soldier tasted a pastry from Jamal's stall. It was soft as clouds and laced with pistachios and rosé. The soldier carried the story back to the palace, and within a fortnight Jamal was summoned to cook for the royal table. He'd never seen marble floors before, never walked past tapestries that shimmered like water, but when he entered the palace kitchen he rolled up his sleeves and smiled. "A pot is a pot," he whispered, "and flavour is a friend who follows." His early days were filled with awe. He worked quietly but skillfully, turning simple ingredients into feasts. He cooked for kings, queens, soldiers, jesters. He made feasts of fish and figs, soups that sang with saffron, and breads so soft they melted against the tongue. Every evening the palace hummed with gratitude. Even the Sultan, stern as he was, once leaned back in his chair after a lamb roast and said, "If peace had a taste, this would be it." But Jamal's food was more than just delicious. It healed. On stormy days he prepared warm lentil stews that made the guards stand straighter. On days of mourning he brewed cardamom tea that brought back laughter. He didn't just feed bodies, he fed hearts. Over time he became beloved, not by force, not by title, but by care. Children of the palace would sneak into the kitchen for honeyed dates. The Grand Vizier once asked him to prepare a special meal to ease his sleepless nights. Even Queen Layla herself would sometimes request dishes from Jamal's childhood, just to feel close to the world beyond the palace walls. Yet, with time, came shadows. As his fame in the palace grew, some nobles began to murmur. "Why is a cook being praised so highly?" they'd whisper. "He is not one of us. He did not train with the court chefs. He comes from dust." One evening, a noble accused Jamal of using magic to enchant the food. It was meant as mockery, but fear has long legs, and rumours ran fast. A whisper turned into a murmur into an echo. He was summoned, not for praise, but for inspection. They searched his spices, questioned his methods. Jamal said nothing. He simply cooked. He prepared a dish of eggplant and mint, seasoned with tears he would never show. It was offered to the court, and upon tasting it, the Sultan stood up, walked to Jamal, and placed a hand on his shoulder. "No magic," the Sultan said softly, "only mastery." From that day forward, the murmurs died. But Jamal, though still smiling, became quieter. He no longer joined the palace festivals. He spent more time in the kitchens, not just cooking, but teaching. He passed his knowledge to apprentices, young boys and girls who once thought flavour came only from salt and fire. Years passed, his beard turned silver, his hands bore calluses from thousands of meals, but his heart remained soft. He had no children, but the palace had become his family. One morning, as sunlight spilled through the kitchen windows, Jamal sat by the hearth, sipping tea. A young cook asked, "What is the secret to your food?" And Jamal, with a tired but kind smile, replied, "I listen to what the day needs, that is all. Some days we need strength, some days softness, and sometimes we just need something warm to remember who we are." That night Jamal passed away in his sleep, peaceful, full, and without pain. The kitchen stood still the next day. No pots clanged, no pans sizzled. A single plate was left on the royal table, his last creation, flatbread folded like a letter, filled with roasted dates and honey wrapped gently in a fig leaf. They buried him in the palace garden, near the lemon trees he had once planted. His gravestone bore a recipe, etched by Princess Noor. To feed the heart, add kindness first. And now, as your breath slows, dear dreamer, imagine the warmth of his kitchen, cinnamon in the air, laughter in the corners, and something gentle simmering on the stove just for you. Let your thoughts melt like butter in a warm pan. Let worries evaporate like steam. Tonight you are a guest at Jamal's table where nothing is rushed, nothing is forgotten, and every flavour is a memory waiting to comfort you. Close your eyes. Taste peace. Feel your body rest as deeply as dough left to rise. Sleep well, traveller. May your dreams be seasoned with joy, your rest wrapped in golden comfort, and your soul forever nourished by the gentle hands of kindness. Good night. You are safe. You are full. You are home. Astrologer Salim reads the stars to predict the future. There was once a man in the Sultan's court who never walked quickly, never spoke loudly, and never once seemed hurried by time. His name was Salim, and though his robes were plain and his beard long grey, the entire kingdom looked to him for answers, not because he held a sword or sat on a throne, but because he understood the stars. Salim was born on a night when the skies shimmered with falling light. His mother, a weaver's daughter, had gone into labour just as a comet streaked across the heavens, leaving a silver trail that seemed to point directly at their modest rooftop. "This child," whispered the midwife, "has been marked by the stars." From his earliest days, Salim was unlike other children. He would sit for hours staring at the sky, whispering to it as though it whispered back. While others ran through fields or played in the market square, Salim traced constellations in the sand, the mahuf rising their shapes as if they were letters in a secret alphabet. By the time he was 12, he could predict the weather better than any sailor. By 16, he could read eclipses and moon phases with such accuracy that elders came to him for planting seasons, marriage blessings, even childbirth omens. And by 21, word of his gift had reached the Sultan himself. Summoned to the palace, Salim was quiet as he entered the court. He bowed not to the power of men, but to the weight of time. The Sultan asked, "Can you read my fate in the sky?" And Salim, looking up through the grand dome, simply replied, "Your fate is written in many stars, and they speak in riddles, not commands." Intrigued by this gentle wisdom, the Sultan appointed Salim as royal astrologer. He was given a chamber in the highest tower, where the dome was open to the night. From there, he watched the sky each evening, charting stars on scrolls, recording the slow dance of planets, listening to silence with the patience of a mountain. But though he advised kings, queens, and generals, Salim never claimed to predict doom or glory. He merely offered pathways. "The stars show direction," he would say, "but it is your feet that walk it." In the early years of his service, hope bloomed in the court. Wars were avoided thanks to Salim's careful readings. Crops were planted in rhythm with the moon. Weddings were chosen by his stargazing. The Sultan once said, "With Salim watching the skies, even storms feel polite." Yet nothing in the world remained steady. A turning came quietly, as such things often do. A new noble arrived at court. Young, prideful, sharp-tongued. He mocked Salim's silence, his slow way of speaking, his long pauses. "Why should a man who watches dots in the sky hold power?" he laughed. And some in the court began to agree. They wanted answers faster, predictions clearer, and decisions louder. Salim warned, "If you seek certainty from the stars, you'll only hear echoes of your own fear." But ambition rarely listens. He was gradually pushed from meetings, his tower visited less. Another advisor, flashy, dramatic, began claiming he could read fortunes with mirrors and smoke. Salim watched quietly, his heart not bitter, only saddened by the noise drowning out the sky. He remained in his tower, still studying, still charting. Even when his body grew old, his eyes remained sharp. He saw a comet return that had passed in his childhood. He noted a rare conjunction of Mars and Venus and whispered, "Peace, if chosen." One winter night, a storm swept the palace. The air cracked with thunder. Fearing omens, the young prince himself climbed the tower to seek Salim's wisdom. "Old man," he asked, shivering, "what do the stars say of tomorrow?" Salim did not answer immediately. He handed the boy a telescope. "Look," he said softly, "not for answers, but for perspective." And together they gazed through the clouds, until the stars returned. Salim passed away that same night, seated at his writing desk, ink still wet on his last chart. The scroll beside him read, "The future is not fixed, but those who walk with wonder need never fear it." They buried him in the palace garden, beneath a fig tree that leaned gently toward the sky. His room was left untouched, his telescope always pointed north, his scrolls studied by generations to come. And though his voice faded from the halls of power, his wisdom lingered in quiet choices, soft refusals, and the steady breath of those who learn to trust time. Now, dear dreamer, as your thoughts drift like clouds across your mind, imagine standing with Salim in that high, quiet tower. The stars above you hum with ancient songs. No rush, no noise, just the infinite hush of possibility. Breathe deeply, like the sky. Rest your heart like the moon rests in darkness, complete yet calm. For tonight you need no answers, only stillness, only wonder. Let your worries dissolve like stardust at dawn. Let your soul float among constellations, where every turn holds not fear, but grace. Sleep now, seeker of gentle truths. You're stardust wrapped in silence. You're not lost, you're only between constellations. Good night, soft traveller. May your dreams be filled with light and your path lit by patience. You're safe, you're timeless, you're at peace. Camel, Master Tariq, takes care of the royal caravan. In the golden lands where the sand whispers secrets to the wind and the sun kisses the earth until it glows, there was a man known simply as Tariq. He was not a prince, nor a noble, nor a warrior, but in the great royal caravan, he was master of all that moved across the desert. Camel Master, they called him, but to those who truly knew, he was the soul of the journey. Tariq was born beneath the stars, wrapped in a blanket of wool beside his mother's camel. His family had tended caravans for generations, nomads who danced with the wind, who spoke in soft tones to their beasts, and who could trace a path across the dunes by the slant of the moonlight alone. As a boy, he did not play with wooden swords or chase shadows. He listened to the hooves, he studied the way a camel blinked in a sandstorm or groaned before a storm. Camels know before the wind knows, his grandfather used to say. Trust them. By the time he was 10, Tariq could pack a saddle blindfolded. By 16, he could guide a train of 50 beasts through the endless sands without leaving a single one behind. He spoke gently, never raised his voice, and treated every animal with care so delicate it was as if he saw the spirit inside each creature. It was during a great drought, when many caravans refused to travel, that the Sultan's royal envoy took notice of him. Tariq guided a precious shipment of silk, dates and scrolls across 600 miles of wind-blasted terrain. Not a single camel fell, not a single crate was spoiled. When the goods arrived safely at the palace, word of the young master of the sands reached the throne. And so Tariq was called upon, not to deliver cargo, but to lead the Sultan's royal caravan. It was an honour few ever received. The royal caravan carried not just wealth, but people, courtiers, nobles, diplomats, even the Sultan himself on occasion. It was a moving palace through shifting gold, and it had to glide with dignity. Tariq brought discipline, but not harshness. He trained his team with patience. He knew every camel by name. He could tell by the way one walked whether it was too cold at night or too thirsty by noon. And the camels, they followed him like children follow a father. They would not kneel for anyone else. Those early years in the service of the palace were full of triumph. With Tariq at the helm, the caravan never lost its way. Even in the deepest parts of the desert, where maps turned to dreams and dreams turned to dust, he guided them true. He sang old songs in the moonlight, fed his animals dates soaked in honey, and made sure every servant and guard had water before he drank. but time is a patient painter, and even the brightest strokes will one day fade. One summer, a new steward was appointed to oversee royal travel, young, proud, and ignorant of desert ways. He mocked Tariq's methods, calling him old-fashioned, too slow, too gentle. "Why stop so often?" he scoffed. "Push them harder." Tariq warned him, "The desert listens, but she's not kind to those who shout at her." The steward refused to hear. On the next journey, the steward cut rest times, demanded longer distances, and loaded the camels too heavily. Tariq argued, pleaded even, but was ordered to obey. And so, with a heavy heart, he led the caravan into the burning sea of dunes. 3 days in, one camel collapsed. On the 5th, 2 more. Water ran low. A storm rose on the horizon like a lion waking from sleep. Tariq begged to stop, to circle back. The steward refused. That night a great sandstorm swallowed the stars. Tariq worked like a spirit of the wind, covering the animals, guiding the blindfolded guards, tying ropes between travellers so no one would be lost. He moved not as a man, but as a force. And when dawn broke, though half the tents were gone, every soul was accounted for. The Sultan heard what had happened. The young steward was dismissed, and Tariq? He was summoned not to answer, but to be honoured. Yet Tariq, weary from years of sun and sand, asked for no reward. He simply said, "Let me return to the camels, they know my heart." He spent his last years training a new generation, young handlers, gentle voices, soft steps. He taught them how to listen for the tremble of the earth, how to find water beneath stone, and how to never, ever strike a camel in anger. When he passed away, it was not in a palace chamber, but beneath the open sky, resting against the side of his favourite camel, Bahira. She did not move for 2 days after he left this world, as if waiting for her master's voice to return on the wind. The Sultan declared that a golden harness would be made in his honour, not to be worn, but hung above the gates of the caravan stables, inscribed with his words, "We do not conquer the desert, we walk with it." And now, dear dreamer, imagine yourself riding alongside Tariq through the cool hush of dusk. The sand beneath you soft, the stars above you bright. No rush, no danger, only the gentle sway of the camel, the wind in your scarf, the soft breath of an old friend walking beside you. Let the rhythm rock you like a lullaby. Let your worries fall behind like distant dunes. You are not lost in the desert. You are guided. Tonight you travel safely through the land of dreams, and the stars know your name. Sleep well, wanderer of moonlit sands. May peace ride with you always. Village Elder, Omar. Respected leader from a nearby village, not far from the grand marble palace, beyond the fragrant groves and wheat fields that swayed like whispers, lay a quiet village where time moved as slowly as the river that curved gently through its heart. It was a place of lantern light and almond trees, where evenings were filled with the laughter of children and the sound of flutes drifting from clay courtyards. And in this village, the people followed one voice above all others, a voice deep as the earth, steady as the seasons. It belonged to Elder Omar, the oldest man in the village and the keeper of its memory. Omar was not born to riches or titles. He was the son of a potter, his hands shaped by clay and patience. As a child he listened more than he spoke. While others ran and played, Omar sat beside the elders, soaking in stories and wisdom like the soil drinks the rain. He asked thoughtful questions, and more importantly, he waited for thoughtful answers. When he came of age, there was no grand ceremony. The village simply began to turn to him, one voice at a time, a farmer asking when to plant, a mother wondering how to soothe a fever, a boy seeking guidance before his first hunt. Omar never gave commands, only stories, lessons, and quiet truths wrapped in parables. Years passed. The village grew, a bridge was built across the river, traders came more often, but through it all, Omar remained its quiet centre. He greeted everyone by name. He remembered the birthdays of the old and the young. He walked the same path to the mosque each morning and placed the same olive oil lamp on his window each night. It was during a year of drought that his true strength was revealed. The crops had failed, the wells were low, and fear was thick in the air. Some villagers called for hoarding, others for fleeing. Tensions rose like heat from cracked earth. But Omar gathered them under the great fig tree in the village square. He did not speak of fear. He spoke of ancestors who survived worse, of neighbours who shared their last dates and their last cups of milk. He reminded them that their strength had never come from the earth, but from each other. "We have no rain," he said gently, "but we still have hands to give." He organised water sharing, rotated rations, and even opened his own home to those most in need. Word of his wisdom reached the palace, and soon relief came, grain, medicine, and silver, all because one old man held his village steady with the strength of his calm heart. In gratitude, the Sultan invited him to court. When Omar entered the grand palace, dressed in his simple robes, the courtiers fell silent. He bowed with dignity, then stood tall and spoke not as a subject, but as a man of his people. He offered no flattery, only truth. "The land will survive," he told the Sultan, "so long as those who live on it do not forget how to care for one another." The Sultan was moved. He offered gold, jewels, even a permanent seat at court. But Omar smiled. "Your Majesty," he said, "I am honoured, but my place is not among pillars of marble. It is beneath the fig tree where children still listen and stories still matter." He returned to his village, where his people greeted him with music and lanterns strung like stars between rooftops. From that day forward, he was not just Elder Omar, he was their bridge between past and future, their living compass. As years turned to decades, his walk slowed. His hair whitened like almond blossoms in spring. But his mind remained sharp, his smile ever warm. When he could no longer walk to the river, children came to him, bringing tales of what they'd seen. Foxes in the orchard, a new calf born, the laughter of merchants from distant lands. And then, one quiet morning, Elder Omar did not wake. He had passed in his sleep, his lamp still glowing by the window, a peaceful smile upon his face. The entire village paused. Even the birds seemed to chirp more softly. They buried him beneath the fig tree where he once gathered them in times of fear and in times of celebration. And in place of stone they planted a circle of lavender that bloomed year after year, releasing the scent of memory into the air. The Sultan himself sent word. A king may rule a palace, but Omar ruled hearts, and hearts, unlike empires, do not fall. Now, dear dreamer, imagine yourself walking through that village under a twilight sky. The lanterns are lit, the wind carries the scent of bread and earth. You sit beneath the old fig tree, its leaves rustling like pages of a gentle book. You feel safe, because somewhere within you, the spirit of Elder Omar whispers, not in commands, but in warmth, reminding you that the strength you seek has always lived quietly inside your heart. There is nothing more to chase tonight, no storms to outrun, only stillness, only peace. Close your eyes, sweet soul. Let the stars cover you like a blanket. Let the world soften around you like the hush before dawn. You're loved, you're remembered, you're home. Sleep well, dear traveller of tales. Let Omar's wisdom guide you gently into dreams. Falconer Yasir trains the Sultan's hunting falcons. In the high gardens of the palace, where jasmine vines curled around ivory pillars and the air smelled of sun-warmed fruit and cedar, a whisper of wings often stirred the stillness. Sharp-eyed falcons soared above the domes, their cries like silver threads stitched across the sky. And beneath their flight, always watching, always waiting, stood a man with eyes like burnished stone and hands steady as the mountain wind. His name was Yasir, the Sultan's falconer. Yasir had not been born to the court, nor did he seek its luxury. His first cradle had been the rocky cliffs near the mountain's edge, where birds circled and shrieked over the jagged stone, and where his father, an old falconer of little renown, taught him to move slowly, breathe gently, and watch the sky as if it were a living book. He learned to walk silently, to perch still as a stone, to whistle low and soft like the wind between feathers. By the age of 8 he'd trained his first bird, a young falcon with a torn wing that no one thought would fly again. But Yasir whispered to it, fed it, wrapped its wing with leaves and linen, and waited patiently. And when the bird finally flew, high and proud, it circled back to land on Yasir's arm as though it had always belonged there. Years passed like feathers drifting down. Yasir's fame grew quietly. He did not boast, but hunters, nobles, even rival falconers began to speak of the boy from the cliffs who could teach birds to trust, who never raised his voice, and whose falcons flew not for command, but for love. One day, as the Sultan rode through the outskirts on a royal hunt, his own prized falcon bolted into the forest, startled by a storm. The bird vanished into the green, and no one could retrieve it. The guards searched, trackers found out, but the falcon was lost. Until, 3 days later, Yasir arrived at the palace gates with the bird calmly resting on his shoulder. He said nothing, simply offered the falcon back, along with a respectful bow. The Sultan, a man not easily impressed, looked into Yasir's eyes and saw a kind of loyalty, depth, and knowledge that did not shout but endured. And so Yasir was welcomed into the palace, not as a servant but as the keeper of the royal skies. In the years that followed, he trained the Sultan's finest hunting birds, sleek peregrines with razor talons, wide-winged suckers with golden eyes, and ghost-like gerfalcons that soared higher than the clouds. They came to him wild, wary, wounded, and left stronger, prouder, fearless. But Yasir taught more than technique. He taught the philosophy of patience. The falcon, he often said, is not owned. She chooses you, not the other way around. He spent his mornings in the gardens, whispering to the birds, his arm outstretched in quiet invitation. He taught palace children how to stand still, how to breathe with the rhythm of the wind. Even the Sultan's son, young Princess San, took lessons from him, more in humility than in hunting. In private, Yasir was gentle and reclusive. He slept beneath the open sky on many nights, near the birds' roosts, watching the stars like old friends. He spoke to his falcons as if they were family, asking their advice, sharing his thoughts, warning them of storms long before they arrived. And yet, time does not still its wings for even the wisest falconer. One spring, during a ceremonial hunt, Yasir's foot slipped on loose gravel along the cliffs. He did not fall far, but his leg was badly wounded. Though he recovered, he could no longer walk long distances. He had to rely on others to fetch the birds, to carry supplies, to aid in flight drills. Many feared he would retire. But Yasir, ever calm, simply said, "A broken wing does not end the sky." He stayed. He trained apprentices, young boys and girls who loved the birds, who listened closely and learned to trust. He passed on every secret, every call, every careful ritual of bonding. His falcons grew older, as did he. One by one he released them when their time came. Some returned to the cliffs, others lived quietly in the palace's open towers. On his final morning he sat beneath the same fig tree he once leaned on as a child, with a grey-feathered falcon perched loyally on his wrist. The sky was soft that day, the wind quiet. A single feather floated down and landed in his lap, like a goodbye. When they found him, his eyes were closed, his expression peaceful. The falcon never left his side until sunset. The Sultan ordered that a tower in the aviary be named in Yasser's memory, and its base was carved in fine script. He taught the sky to listen. Now, dear dreamer, close your eyes and imagine the sky above you, wide and endless. Feel the hush of wings slicing through the twilight. You are standing in the palace gardens, arms outstretched, and a falcon circles, drawn to the stillness of your spirit. You are not alone. Yasser's quiet wisdom flows like a breeze around you. He teaches you to wait, to breathe, to trust. You are strong not because you command, but because you care. Tonight there is no need to rush. The skies are calm, the falcons are at rest. Let your heart beat slow to the rhythm of wings. Let your dreams lift gently into flight. Sleep well, sky watcher, the stars guard your rest, and the falcons of old soar beside you. Scribe Yusuf records the Sultan's decrees and stories. In the quietest corner of the palace, past the rose gardens and through the arched halls of coloured glass, there sat a chamber that smelled of ink, parchment, and jasmine tea. It was here that words were woven into memory, and time was carefully recorded by the steady hand of a man named Yusuf, the Sultan's scribe. Yusuf was not born to wealth, nor did he seek glory. His earliest memories were of shadows dancing on parchment, and the scratch of his grandfather's quill as it moved slowly across scrolls by lamplight. Raised in a modest house tucked behind the old library walls, Yusuf grew up surrounded by tales, not just stories of kings and battles, but of rainstorms, of harvests, of the names of the stars and the ancient wisdom whispered in dying embers. He was a quiet child, often overlooked at gatherings, but he listened to everything. He had a memory that clung to detail like silk to skin, names, colours, voices, the shape of a smile or the tremble in a soldier's voice before battle. And so, when his grandfather passed, the village elders brought Yusuf to the capital, a parchment satchel over his shoulder, his gaze calm and full of thought. The palace seemed enormous to him, too loud, too bright, but in the great hall of records, with its stone walls lined with scrolls and bound volumes, Yusuf found peace. The head scribe, a man old as the walls themselves, tested the boy quietly. Copy this decree, translate that poem, record a conversation spoken only once. And Yusuf passed every test. By the time he was barely 20, he became the youngest appointed royal scribe in the kingdom's long and dust-covered history. The Sultan, though wary at first of such youth, came to admire him. For Yusuf was not only precise, he was poetic. His copies of royal decrees were so elegant they seemed to breathe. His accounts of the Sultan's council meetings read not like dry records, but like living stories, humming with nuance and emotion. He sat behind a low cedar desk, always in the same white robe, quill dancing between his fingers like a feathered blade. Every morning he dipped ink as the call to prayer faded from the air. He documented justice, births, marriages, treaties, oaths. But in secret moments, he also recorded the quiet things, the way the Sultan paused when speaking of his children, the sorrow in Layla's eyes on winter nights, the nervous laughter of a young prince reciting his first speech. To Yusuf, everything was worthy of memory, not just grand victories, but fleeting whispers, like rain on rooftops or the crease in a letter passed between lovers. But even scribes, however careful, must face the winds of power. As seasons passed, political tides shifted. Some courtiers, envious of Yusuf's closeness to the Sultan, whispered doubts. Why did the Sultan share secrets with a man who merely wrote? Why was Yusuf allowed in private meetings, allowed to observe grief and greatness alike? A rival scribe, fueled by pride, accused Yusuf of altering history, of using flowery words to twist events, to soften harsh decisions and glorify sorrow. A formal inquiry was held. Yusuf did not defend himself with anger. He simply presented his scrolls, every entry, every record, sealed and dated. And then, humbly, he read from one. On the eve of war, the Sultan stood not as a tyrant but as a father. His hand trembled, his voice broke. He did not crave battle, he craved peace, but the winds had already turned. Silence followed. Even his accusers were moved. The Sultan dismissed the charges. Yusuf remained, though changed. He grew quieter still, more selective. He taught young scribes how to listen with their hearts, not just their ears. He told them, our task is not only to record what happens, but why it matters. He continued writing, even when his hair turned silver and his fingers began to ache. In his final years, he began to compile a great manuscript, a secret gift to the kingdom, not of laws or royal deeds, but of stories, stories of those forgotten, the cook who fed the poor, the guard who died protecting a child, the old gardener who whispered to the trees. It was a tapestry of lives too small for legend, but too grand to lose. When Yusuf's time came, he passed quietly at his writing table. A candle still flickered beside him. His final line, written in a hand growing faint, read, "May the ink never dry on kindness." The Sultan himself wept, and ordered Yusuf's scrolls to be kept not in the vault, but in the central chamber, open for all. His memory became a symbol, not just of accuracy, but of empathy. The people did not speak of Yusuf as a mere scribe, they called him the keeper of hearts. And now, gentle listener, close your eyes and imagine soft lamplight glowing on parchment. Imagine the scent of old books and fresh ink. The room is warm, your breath slow. Outside, the stars shine silently, and a quill scratches gently across a scroll. That's Yusuf, still writing in some dream world far beyond, where stories live forever, where no name is lost, and where every whispered truth finds a home. You're safe now. Your thoughts are recorded not in ink but in light. Let them drift like stories into the wind. Sleep well, dear traveller of tales. The scribe has taken your dreams under his care. And in the silence of night, your story too shall be remembered. Mysterious stranger. Zara. A traveller with a hidden past. In a land where the dunes sang and the moon lit the desert like a lantern, there came a woman wrapped in silence and silver. She walked with the grace of drifting smoke, her robes dark as midnight, her eyes gleaming with ancient memory. No one knew where she came from. She gave her name only once, Zara. She arrived just before dawn, when the palace gates were still wet with dew. The guards at first stopped her, startled by her presence, by the falcon that perched calmly on her shoulder and the sword tied loosely at her back. But she bowed low, with elegance like royalty, and when she spoke her voice held the hush of forgotten songs. "I am but a traveller," she said, "with stories to offer and silence to keep." The Sultan, curious, allowed her entrance, and from that moment Zara's quiet presence became a shadow among marble halls and silken courtyards. She did not ask for gold, nor land, nor title. She simply watched, listened, and when asked, offered words that struck like thunder hidden in honey. She walked through the library as though she'd written its books. She wandered the gardens like one searching for something long lost. At night she sat beneath the fig tree and whispered to the stars. No one knew her origin. Some claimed she was once a queen from a fallen kingdom. Others whispered she'd been raised by mystics, or that she'd survived a storm that swallowed a fleet whole, but Zara never confirmed nor denied. She smiled gently and changed the subject with the skill of a weaver spinning clouds. And yet, over time, the palace began to change because of her. When the Sultan sought her counsel on difficult matters, she did not flatter. She spoke truth even when it wounded, but her words were wrapped in poetry, her gaze never accusing. A ruler, she once told him, is not crowned by gold but by the peace of his people's sleep. She taught the princess how to read the language of dreams. She sparred with the prince in the training court and bested him twice, though she never boasted. She healed a wounded falcon with herbs none had seen before, whispering to it in a tongue older than the hills. Still, as her influence grew, so did unease. Some courtiers began to murmur. Who was she, this foreign shadow? Why did the Sultan trust her more than his oldest advisers? Was she a spy, a sorceress, a threat in silk? One day, during a banquet glittering with lamps and music, a noblewoman loudly questioned her. "Lady Zara," she said sweetly but sharp, "from what noble house do you descend?" Zara, serene, placed her goblet down. "From the house of loss," she replied, "and of resilience." The hall fell silent. Thereafter fewer questioned her, but the mystery thickened. Then came a turning point. One night a foreign ambassador attempted to poison the Sultan with a rare powder hidden in sweet wine. By fate or intuition, Zara passed by the banquet hall just as the Sultan lifted his cup. Without hesitation, she struck the goblet from his hand. Poison spilled like ink across the marble. She had saved the Sultan's life. And yet, some wondered how she knew. Suspicion and gratitude coiled together like twin serpents. Later that week she disappeared. No carriage was seen leaving. No one saw her pass the gates. She left behind no letter, no clue, only the falcon, now free and circling above the palace, crying into the wind as though searching for its mistress. Days passed, then weeks. The Sultan ordered search parties. None returned with word. And yet, strange things continued to happen. A lost scroll from centuries ago was suddenly found lying on the Sultan's desk. A map to an ancient spring, long buried in legend, appeared in the prince's chamber. A deadly illness struck a neighbouring kingdom, but the palace received the antidote 3 days before it reached their borders, tucked inside a satchel with no note, only a single silver feather. In time, they stopped asking where she went. They began instead to believe she never truly left. The children called her the Watcher of Winds. The palace guards swore they sometimes saw her silhouette on the highest wall under moonlight, her cloak rippling like smoke. The people of the kingdom began lighting a small lantern at their doorsteps on nights of storm in case she wandered by. Zara became not just a legend, but a presence, unseen, perhaps, but deeply felt. And now, dear dreamer, as you lie beneath your covers and listen to the hush of the night, imagine the scent of jasmine on the breeze, the shimmer of stars across the open sky. She walks still, that shadow wrapped in moonlight, not as a threat but as a guardian, watching, remembering, carrying her stories not in scrolls, but in the silence between heartbeats. She may visit you too, when your dreams grow restless. You may find a feather on your pillow, or a forgotten memory return to you like a gentle gift. And if you do, know that she has walked by your side. Tonight, drift with ease. Let the desert winds carry you. Let the falcon guide you. Sleep well, wanderer of dreams. Your story is safe, your heart is guarded, and Zara is never far. Princess Layla's confidant, Hannah, trusted friend and advisor. In a quiet corner of the palace, where the sunlight softened through woven curtains and the scent of blooming jasmine floated in the air, lived Hannah, the trusted confidant of Princess Layla. From the earliest days of their youth, Hannah and Layla had been inseparable. Born to a humble family of skilled artisans, Hannah's childhood was simple, filled with laughter and the steady rhythm of crafting delicate tapestries and jewellery. Her hands learned to weave beauty from thread and stone, but it was her heart that wove the strongest bond with the princess. Though not of noble birth, Hannah's wisdom and kindness lifted her beyond her humble origins. She rose gently in the palace's quiet corridors, not by power or command, but by trust and unwavering loyalty. Layla's eyes shone brightest when Hannah was near, for she was more than a servant or advisor. She was a sister of the soul. In those early days, the palace was a place of hope and light. Princess Layla, with her gentle smile and radiant beauty, dreamed of a future where kindness ruled the land. Hannah stood by her side, whispering encouragements and soft advice, teaching her to listen to the whispers of the heart. Together they shared secrets beneath the silver moon, and together they dreamed of a kingdom filled with peace. But time, as it always does, brought change. The pressures of palace life weighed heavy on Layla, and whispers of jealousy stirred in the shadows. Hannah saw how the princess's spirit wavered when burdened by expectation. It was then that Hannah's steady presence became a lifeline, a soft anchor in the swirling tides of court intrigue and ambition. Yet even the strongest bonds face tests. One day, a false rumour spread like wildfire that Hannah sought to steal the princess's favour, to whisper poison in her ear for her own gain. The court buzzed with suspicion, and for a fleeting moment, Layla's trust faltered. But Hannah's heart was pure, and in the quiet moments they shared, Layla's doubts melted away like morning mist. Hannah's wisdom shone brightest in these dark days. She counselled patience, kindness, and quiet strength, reminding Layla that true power lies not in the crown, but in the love one carries within. When the Sultan faced difficult decisions, Hannah's voice guided Layla to be a beacon of hope, a gentle light in turbulent times. But life is never without hardship. In a season of drought and hardship, when the palace stores grew thin and the people's spirits low, Hannah took it upon herself to organize secret aid for the village children. She worked silently, moving through shadows to deliver food and medicine, never seeking praise. Her cleverness and courage saved many, though she never spoke of it. Her loyalty was a quiet rebellion against despair, a soft defiance that warmed the coldest nights. And yet, as with all stories, a turning point came. A sudden illness struck Princess Layla's household, and Hannah nursed the princess with unwavering devotion. She sacrificed sleep and strength, pouring every ounce of her knowledge and love into healing. The princess's recovery was slow, but Hannah's care was steadfast. In those long nights their bond deepened beyond words. When Layla finally opened her eyes, she saw Hannah's face bathed in candlelight, worn but radiant with love. It was a moment that would forever mark the heart of the kingdom. But even the strongest must sometimes fall. In time, Hannah grew tired and frail, the years of service weighing on her like a heavy cloak. Her hair silvered, her hands trembled, but her spirit remained unbroken. She knew her time in the palace was drawing to a close, and with quiet grace she prepared to leave the royal halls that had been her home. Her final days were filled with gentle smiles, soft words, and the warm presence of those she loved. The princess held at her hand, tears shining like stars, promising that Hannah's kindness and wisdom would live forever in the heart of the kingdom. When Hannah passed into the night, the palace seemed to hold its breath. Her light had not dimmed, only changed form, becoming a gentle breeze that whispered through the gardens and a soft glow in the twilight sky. Her legacy was clear, a testament to the power of friendship, loyalty, and the quiet strength that can change the course of a kingdom without a single shout. And now, as your eyelids grow heavy and the night wraps you in its tender embrace, imagine the soft rustle of silk and the faint scent of jasmine. Feel the warmth of a friend's hand in yours, steady and true. Let Hannah's story remind you that even in the darkest hours, there is light, a gentle light that guides, protects, and soothes the restless heart. Sleep peacefully, dear dreamer. May your dreams be filled with friendship's gentle touch and the quiet strength of love's embrace. The night is kind and all is well. Blacksmith Abbas crafts weapons and tools for the kingdom. In a quiet village nestled among rolling hills and whispering trees, Abbas was born into a humble family of artisans. From his earliest days, the scent of burning wood and molten metal surrounded him, for his father was the village blacksmith. Abbas's childhood was simple and peaceful, marked by the warmth of the forge fire and the steady rhythm of hammer against anvil. With soot-smudged cheeks and curious eyes, he would watch his father work tirelessly, learning how raw cold iron could be transformed into tools and weapons that shaped the world. As a boy, Abbas was gentle but determined. While other children ran and played, he found joy in the steady beat of the hammer, the sparks that flew like tiny stars with every strike. The villagers soon noticed his talent, how his hands, though still young, could shape iron with a rare precision and care. He was a boy of quiet strength, never boastful, but deeply passionate about his craft. Word of Abbas's skill travelled beyond the village borders. The Sultan, who ruled the nearby kingdom with wisdom and fairness, heard tales of the young blacksmith's exceptional work. One day, a royal messenger arrived with an invitation. Abbas was to come to the palace and serve as the kingdom's blacksmith. With hope and humility, Abbas left his village carrying only a worn leather apron and the legacy of his father's teachings. At the palace, Abbas found himself surrounded by grandeur and bustling life, but his heart remained true to the forge. His rise was steady, not through power or ambition, but through the respect he earned by crafting the finest weapons and tools the kingdom had ever seen. Soldiers admired the balance and strength of his swords, farmers praised the durability of his ploughs, and the Sultan himself trusted Abbas's hands to protect the realm. In the beginning, the palace was filled with promise and light. Abbas's work symbolized hope, swords forged to defend, tools to nurture the land. His humble presence grounded the grand halls, a reminder that even in greatness strength comes from care and dedication. But seasons changed, and the peaceful days gave way to darker times. The kingdom faced threats from beyond its borders, and the demand for weapons grew fierce. Abbas's forge never cooled. Night and day he hammered steel, crafting armor and blades meant for battle. The joy he once found in creation was shadowed by the burden of war. Each weapon bore the weight of the lives it might end, and Abbas felt the sorrow of his craft deepen. This was his turning point. The blacksmith who had shaped tools for life now shaped instruments of conflict. Yet even amid this turmoil, Abbas held on to a flicker of hope. He secretly crafted small iron charms, delicate birds, blooming flowers, and gifted them to the palace children as symbols of peace and resilience. After many seasons, the war ended. Abbas, weary and changed, laid down his hammer, his hands scarred but steady. He spent his remaining years teaching young apprentices, passing on not only the skills of the forge, but the wisdom of patience, strength, and heart. His legacy became one of quiet courage, a reminder that from the heat of fire and the clash of metal, hope and kindness can still be born. Now, as you lie beneath soft blankets and the stars watch silently over the night, imagine the gentle glow of Abbas's forge, warm, steady, comforting. Feel the rhythm of the hammer, the sparks that light the darkness like dreams taking flight. Rest peacefully, dear dreamer. Let the strength of the blacksmith's heart guard you as you drift into calm and gentle sleep. May your dreams be woven with courage, kindness, and the quiet power that lies in every gentle strike. Sleep well, guardian of the night. The world is safe in your dreams. Gardener Salma tends to the palace's magical garden. In a tranquil village cradled by soft hills and endless skies, Salma was born into a family deeply connected with the earth and its ancient rhythms. From the very beginning, her life was intertwined with nature's quiet miracles. As a child, she would wake with the dawn, her small hands eager to touch the cool morning dew on flower petals, and her curious eyes drawn to the dance of butterflies and bees. Her parents, simple gardeners themselves, watched with gentle pride as Salma learned the secrets of seeds and soil, rain and sun, whispering softly to plants as if they were old friends. Her childhood was a tapestry of vibrant blooms, sun-warmed stones, and the comforting rustle of leaves, a world where magic seemed to linger just beneath the surface. As she grew, Salma's connection to nature deepened. Her tender care turned struggling saplings into towering trees and barren patches into flourishing gardens. Word spread through the nearby villages about the girl who could coax life from the driest earth and heal the sick with her knowledge of herbs and flowers. People came seeking her wisdom, believing that Salma carried the gentle spirit of the earth itself. It was said that when she worked, the garden seemed to breathe with a life, all its own petals glowing faintly in moonlight, and scents drifting in the breeze that soothed troubled minds. Her rise to the palace garden was both a quiet miracle and a well-deserved honour. When the Sultan heard tales of Salma's gift, he invited her to tend the royal gardens, a sacred place known only to a few. The garden was no ordinary collection of plants. It was a magical sanctuary filled with rare flowers and herbs, said to hold powers beyond understanding. Salma accepted the invitation with humility and hope, knowing that this was her chance to nurture something truly extraordinary. At first, the palace garden was a place of wonder and hope. Salma's days were filled with the gentle rhythm of planting, watering, and tending to blossoms that shimmered like jewels beneath the sun. The air was alive with the songs of birds and the soft murmur of trickling fountains. Courtiers and visitors often wandered through, finding peace in the garden's embrace and marvelling at its beauty. Salma's hands seemed to weave quiet spells, nurturing life with a love so pure it could calm even the most restless heart. The Sultan himself often visited, grateful for the garden's magic and the peace it brought to his kingdom. But as the seasons turned, the kingdom faced trials that tested even the strongest roots. Distant storms of war and unrest cast long shadows, and the palace garden, once radiant, began to show signs of strain. Flowers drooped, leaves yellowed, and the magic that had once pulsed through the soil grew faint. Salma felt this sorrow deeply, as though the garden's pain echoed in her own heart. She laboured tirelessly to revive it, mixing ancient remedies, whispering prayers passed down through generations, and never losing hope even when the darkest nights seemed endless. This difficult period became Salma's true test. Though the garden struggled, she never allowed despair to take root. She discovered hidden springs beneath the palace grounds and drew from their cool waters to nourish the soil. She carefully tended each plant with renewed care, believing that every leaf held a promise of new life. In the quietest hours of night, she would sing soft lullabies to the flowers, her voice blending with the gentle hum of the earth. Slowly, the garden began to heal, a delicate yet powerful reminder that even in hardship, beauty can return. As peace was restored to the kingdom, the palace garden blossomed once again, more vibrant and alive than before. Salma's patience and unwavering care transformed it into a living symbol of hope and resilience. The rare flowers bloomed in colours so vivid they seemed almost otherworldly, and the healing herbs thrived, offering comfort to all who sought them. The Sultan praised Salma's dedication, and her name became synonymous with kindness and gentle strength. In her later years, Salma became a beloved mentor, teaching young gardeners not only the art of cultivation but also the importance of patience, kindness, and listening to the quiet voice of nature. Her legacy was not just the garden she tended, but the love and wisdom she planted in every heart. Her story reminded all who heard it that nurturing in every form is an act of magic, a slow, steady force that transforms the world. Now, As you close your eyes and let the soft night enfold you, imagine Salma's magical garden bathed in moonlight. Feel the cool breeze carrying the scent of jasmine and lavender. Hear the gentle rustle of leaves as stars twinkle overhead. Let the calm strength of the earth and Salma's loving hands wrap it around you like a warm blanket. Drift gently into a restful sleep where dreams bloom like flowers, peaceful, bright and full of quiet wonder. Rest well, dear dreamer, in the garden of your own heart. May your night be as calm and beautiful as Salma's magical sanctuary, and may you awaken refreshed, carrying the gentle magic of kindness into every new day. Sleep peacefully, beloved soul. The night's garden awaits your dreams. Messenger. Ibrahim delivers important news across the kingdom. In a small sun-kissed village tucked between winding rivers and rolling hills, Ibrahim was born to a family known for their kindness and strength. From the moment he took his first breath, the world seemed to whisper to him about journeys in distant places. As a boy, Ibrahim's days were filled with wonder and energy. While other children played by the village wells or climbed the ancient olive trees, Ibrahim found himself drawn to the open roads that stretched beyond the horizon. His father often told stories of brave travellers and swift messengers, weaving tales of courage and loyalty that planted seeds of purpose deep within Ibrahim's heart. Growing up, Ibrahim's spirit was restless yet steady. His legs grew strong from daily runs to the nearby market and back, delivering small notes or parcels with care. Each trip was an adventure, a step closer to the wide world he longed to understand. His neighbours admired how quickly and reliably he moved, always returning with news or smiles, even when the roads were dusty or the sun heavy. As Ibrahim learned the twists and turns of every path, he also absorbed the importance of trust. The knowledge that words carried across miles could change lives, calm fears, or bring joy. When word of Ibrahim's skill reached the palace, the Sultan himself summoned the young messenger. The kingdom was vast and often restless, and swift communication was the lifeblood of its peace and prosperity. Ibrahim accepted the sacred duty without hesitation, his heart swelling with pride but tempered by humility. To be the one who carried the kingdom's voice was a great honour, but also a heavier responsibility. His footsteps would now echo far beyond his village, weaving the fabric of connection through every corner of the realm. In the early days serving Sultan, Ibrahim found joy in the steady rhythm of his work. He ran through blooming orchards, past towering palms and over golden deserts, his presence a quiet promise that messages would be delivered on time and without fail. People along the roads came to recognize him, the swift-footed messenger with kind eyes and a gentle smile. His arrival often brought relief and hope, especially when news was urgent or troubling. The Sultan's court valued Ibrahim's reliability, and he became a trusted link between the throne and the people. Yet, as time passed, Ibrahim faced moments that tested his resolve. On one journey, deep into the rugged mountains, he carried urgent news of a brewing conflict between neighbouring lands. The weight of those words settled heavy on his soul, knowing how they could bring fear or sorrow. Still, Ibrahim pressed forward, his feet steady, guided by a quiet courage that refused to falter. He understood that truth must travel swiftly, even through storms and shadow. This turning point marked the transformation of his role, from a simple bearer of messages to a bearer of hope and courage for the entire kingdom. During the kingdom's most challenging days, when unrest threatened the harmony he had helped build, Ibrahim's dedication never wavered. He braved rain-soaked trails and midnight darkness, his heart steady as he navigated difficult paths. In moments of exhaustion, he found comfort in the quiet stars above, their light a guiding hand through the night. The trust the Sultan placed in him was not taken lightly. Each message was a thread that held together the fragile peace of the realm. Ibrahim's footsteps became a rhythm of resilience, carrying not only words but the spirit of the people's hope. As calm returned and the kingdom blossomed anew, Ibrahim's journeys became gentler but no less important. Villagers greeted him with warm smiles and grateful hearts. Children gathered to hear his stories of distant places and daring travels. The Sultan praised his unwavering loyalty, and Ibrahim himself found peace in the knowledge that his efforts had helped shape a future of safety and connection. His legacy was a quiet one, built not on grand battles or riches, but on the steady, faithful footsteps that carried the lifeblood of a kingdom. In the golden years of his life, Ibrahim became a teacher and mentor, passing on the art of the messenger to eager young souls. He spoke of the power of listening, the value of honesty, and the strength found in perseverance. His stories were filled with gentle lessons about the importance of every message, how even the smallest word, carried with care, could change the course of history. Through his wisdom, the spirit of the messenger lived on, a beacon of hope and connection for generations to come. Now, as you lie beneath the quiet night sky, imagine Ibrahim's steady footsteps echoing softly along moonlit roads, the cool breeze brushing your skin, carrying the faint scent of wildflowers and distant rain. Feel the calm and purpose in his every stride, a comforting rhythm that lulls your heart into peace. Let his unwavering spirit wrap around you like a warm cloak, guiding you gently into a deep, restful sleep where dreams flow like gentle rivers and your soul is free to wander in light and safety. Rest well, dear traveller of the night. Let Ibrahim's journey carry you softly into dreams where every step is sure and every message is filled with love. Sleep peacefully, wrapped in the quiet magic of connection, and awaken renewed, ready to greet the new day with hope and grace. Good night, gentle soul, the kingdom's trust rests easy tonight, and so do you. Dancer Layla entertains the court with graceful dances. In a quiet village kissed by the golden sun, Layla was born into a family that treasured music, movement, and celebration. From the moment she could walk, her small feet seemed to dance to the rhythms of the world around her. The gentle rustle of leaves, the soft murmur of rivers, and the distant songs carried by the wind. Her childhood was filled with moments of wonder, laughter, and discovery, as she learned to move with grace and joy, capturing the hearts of all who watched her. Her parents nurtured her gift with patience and love, encouraging her to follow the rhythm that blossomed within her soul. As Layla grew, so did her passion for dance. She spent hours watching the stars and imagining their gentle sway, practicing steps beneath the wide open sky. Her elegance and poise were not merely the result of talent, but of a heart that beat in harmony with the world's quiet music. Soon, tales of the village girl whose movements could tell stories and awaken emotions reached far beyond the hills. It was said that when Layla danced, the world seemed to pause, enchanted by the beauty and magic she wove with every gesture. The day came when Layla was summoned to the palace to become the Sultan's official dancer. It was a moment of joy mixed with quiet nerves, a chance to share her gift on a grander stage. She accepted with grace, knowing that her dance would bring light and calm to the heart of the kingdom. As she stepped into the shimmering halls of the palace, her spirit danced ahead of her, filled with hope and the promise of new beginnings. Her rise to this honoured role was a journey marked by devotion, discipline, and the quiet courage to follow her dreams. At the start of her time in the royal court, Layla's dances brought joy and wonder to all who witnessed them. The Sultan and his guests would gather in the great hall, their eyes fixed on the flowing movements of her body, the soft smile upon her lips. Each performance was a story told without words, of love, courage, and the gentle beauty found in everyday moments. Her presence was a balm to weary hearts, and a spark of light in the palace's busiest days. It was a time filled with hope and warmth, where the magic of dance seemed to weave peace into the very air. Yet, as the seasons changed, so did the challenges that Layla faced. The weight of expectation grew heavy, and the bright light of admiration was sometimes shadowed by envy and court intrigue. In the quiet moments away from the crowd, Layla wrestled with doubt and loneliness. But through it all, her passion for dance remained unbroken, a flame that burned steadily within her. This turning point deepened her resolve, reminding her that true grace comes not only from the applause, but from the courage to keep moving forward, even when the world seems uncertain. During times of turmoil in the kingdom, Layla's dances took on new meaning. They became not only entertainment, but a language of hope and resilience. Her steps told stories of strength and endurance, of rising above fear and pain. The palace hall echoed with the rhythm of her heart, inspiring all who watched to find their own courage. Though the world outside trembled, within those walls Layla's dance was a refuge, a soft, steady light in the darkness, a reminder that beauty and grace endure even in the hardest times. As peace returned and the kingdom blossomed, Layla's role evolved into that of a gentle guide. She taught young dancers, passing on not only the steps but the spirit behind the movement. Her legacy was one of grace, kindness, and the power of art to heal and connect. The Sultan often praised her, saying that her dance was the soul of the palace, a gift that brought light to every corner of the realm. Now, as you lie beneath your soft covers and the night sky wraps around you like a velvet cloak, imagine Layla's graceful movements flowing gently through the quiet halls of the palace. Feel the gentle sway of her dance as soft as a lullaby, cradling you in calm and peace. Let the rhythm of her steps lull your mind, soothing away the day's worries and guiding you gently into the realm of dreams. Picture the delicate glow of candlelight flickering as her dance tells a story only your heart can hear. Rest now, dear dreamer. Let Layla's dance carry you softly into sleep, where every movement is a whisper of peace, and every breath a gentle song of comfort. May your dreams be filled with light and grace, and may you awaken refreshed, wrapped in the quiet magic of the night. Sleep well, beloved traveller of dreams. The dance of the night is yours to follow, step by peaceful step. Sultan's brother, Emir Farid, ambitious and cunning. Emir Farid was born beneath the vast desert sky. His arrival whispered with quiet hope and watchful eyes. From the very beginning, there was something about him, a spark of restless ambition, flickering beneath his calm exterior. Raised in the majestic palace alongside his elder brother the Sultan, Farid's childhood was a complex blend of admiration, rivalry, and longing. Though loved by the family, the shadow cast by the throne was long, and Farid's heart yearned to step out from behind it, to claim his own place in the kingdom story. As a boy, Farid was sharp and clever, always observing with intent. While others played freely, he learned the subtle art of court life, the whispered secrets, the careful smiles, and the delicate dance of power and favour. His mind was a garden of ideas, some bold and daring, others quietly cunning. Though outwardly charming, Farid often wrestled with his own impatience, dreaming of a day when his ambitions would no longer be confined by his brother's rule. The warmth of the palace did not always reach his restless spirit, but he carried hope deep within, like a hidden ember waiting to ignite. When Farid began to rise within the court, it was through quiet strategy rather than open challenge. He became known as a man of sharp insight and persuasive words, skillfully weaving alliances and gathering support among nobles and advisors. His cleverness earned him respect and a place close to the Sultan, though his true intentions remained a carefully kept secret. This period held promise, for many believed Farid's ambition could serve the kingdom well, balancing the Sultan's gentle rule with practical strength and wisdom. Yet beneath this promise lay a growing hunger, subtle but unyielding. In those early days of influence, Farid moved with confidence and patience, speaking with measured words and offering thoughtful counsel. His presence was a steady force, and the court watched as he helped navigate delicate matters with skill and grace. The kingdom flourished under the joint strength of the Sultan's kindness and Farid's shrewd mind. But slowly, the bright hope began to fade, replaced by shadows cast by Farid's increasing desire for more power, more recognition, more control. A change came quietly but surely. Farid's ambitions sharpened into something darker, fueled by a restless desire that would no longer be restrained by loyalty or family ties. The soft glow of brotherly respect was replaced by the cold gleam of calculated moves. In secret chambers and hushed conversations, he plotted, weaving schemes with patience and precision. The palace halls whispered with rumours, and trust grew fragile like thin ice beneath heavy feet. This turning point marked the beginning of a struggle that would test the bonds of family and the fate of the kingdom itself. As Farid's plans unfolded, his rule in the shadows brought tension and unrest. His cunning strategies stirred fear and doubt, and the harmony of the court was threatened by the silent wars fought behind closed doors. Yet even in this time of turbulence, Farid remained a figure of fascination, a man whose intellect and ambition were undeniable. His choices revealed the complex nature of power, where the line between protector and adversary blurs. The kingdom felt the ripple of his influence, and history would remember this period as one of caution and reflection. Eventually, the tides of fate shifted against Farid. His ambitions met resistance, and the fragile web he had woven began to unravel. Whether through exile, quiet retreat, or the slow fading of influence, his journey came to an end, leaving behind lessons etched in the sands of time. His story became a warning, a reminder that unchecked desire can shadow even the brightest minds, and that true strength often lies in humility and balance. Farid's legacy lingers like a gentle echo, calling for understanding and forgiveness. Now, as you settle beneath your soft blankets, let your mind wander to the palace gardens bathed in moonlight, where whispers of ambition mingle with the calm of the night. Feel the steady breath of the desert breeze and the quiet resolve of a man who dreamed too fiercely. Let Farid's story remind you that even restless hearts find rest, and that peace can grow from the shadows of struggle. Close your eyes, dear dreamer, and breathe deeply. Let the night enfold you in its gentle arms, carrying you into a world where courage meets calm and dreams bloom softly like desert flowers. Sleep well, wrapped in the quiet wisdom of stars, and awaken renewed, ready to greet a new dawn with a peaceful heart. Good night, gentle soul. May your dreams be as serene as the desert night. Sea Captain Malik commands the royal fleet. Beneath the shimmer of 1,000 stars, on a night when the sea whispered secrets to the moon, a child was born in a quiet coastal village. His name was Malik. From the moment he took his first breath, it was said the ocean itself stirred to greet him. His cradle was rocked by the rhythm of the waves, and his lullabies were the gentle crashing of the tide. The son of a humble fisherman and a healer with the salt in her hair, Malik's blood carried both strength and deep understanding. As a boy, he would stand barefoot at the edge of the world, staring into the endless blue. Ships came and went, sails like wings on the horizon. Malik imagined steering one of them, not as a passenger, but as a master of winds and stars. He was curious and brave, often venturing out on small boats, learning the moods of the sea. Elders spoke of storms and treasures, of monstrous squalls and silent dawns. Malik listened and remembered, every story another knot tied into his heart's rope. By the time he reached manhood, Malik had earned his place among seasoned sailors. He could read the stars like maps, feel the currents shift like a whisper. Word of his talent travelled, and when the Sultan sought a new leader for the royal fleet, the sea pointed to Malik. It was not lineage or wealth that raised him, it was trust, earned wave by wave. And so, Captain Malik rose, not just as a commander, but as the soul of the Sultan's ships. His early days as fleet captain were marked by golden voyages. Trade routes blossomed, pirates fled at the sight of his banner, and the kingdom's harbours buzzed with prosperity. He ruled the sea not with tyranny, but with respect. For the water, for his crew, and for the winds that could change at a moment's whim. The people admired him. Children dreamed of sailing under him. His ships returned with spices, silks, and stories. For a time it seemed Malik had tamed even the wildest tides. But as with all journeys, a storm came. It began with whispers, political currents beneath calm waters. Nobles at court grew envious. A rival admiral returned from exile, sowing doubt in the Sultan's ear. Malik, who trusted the waves more than politics, did not see it coming. A voyage was sabotaged. Supplies went missing. A merchant vessel vanished. Though Malik's honour remained, suspicion hung over him like a storm cloud. He stood firm, but the sea no longer sang. Now it growled. Soon he was sent on a long, uncertain voyage. A mission of honour, the court claimed. But it was meant to exile him quietly, to keep him far from courtly eyes. Malik knew this, yet he obeyed. He kissed the shore one last time, set sail, and vanished into the mist. Months passed. No word. Some claimed he was lost. Others whispered that he found a new land and built his own port, free of politics and deceit. The truth, like many tales of the sea, was carried off by the wind. His legacy, though, remained anchored in the hearts of those who had sailed with him. They remembered a man who taught that the sea should be listened to, not conquered. A captain who stood on deck through the fiercest squalls, eyes fixed on the horizon, never afraid. Children still asked to hear stories of the time Captain Malik sailed through a firestorm and brought a fleet home unharmed. The royal fleet changed hands, but Malik's name was never forgotten. And now, as stars blink gently above and the world quiets its breath, you too may feel the call of the waves. Let the rhythm of the tide rock you as Malik's ships once rocked on silver waters. Hear the sails flutter, the wood creak, the gulls cry far off in the distance. His compass always pointed forward, not to glory, but to meaning, to journey, to purpose. So close your eyes, dear dreamer. Imagine yourself aboard his finest ship, sails full, heart calm. Let the salt air soothe your thoughts. Let the waves hush your worries. You're safe, you're steady, and the wind is kind. As the moon glides across the ocean's mirror, let the tale of Captain Malik guide you into sleep. Sleep well, traveller of tides. May your dreams be deep as the sea and your rest gentle as the quiet stars above. Alchemist Nuruddin creates potions and remedies. In a quiet corner of the palace grounds, where the scent of jasmine mixed with strange and fragrant herbs, lived a man known to all as Nuruddin, the royal alchemist. But long before his name echoed through marble halls, he was simply a curious boy in a modest village, nestled between dusty hills and hidden springs. His mother, a midwife with a gentle heart, often said he was born under a lucky star, one that shimmered even at dawn. His father, a seller of spices, claimed the boy could identify a flower blindfolded by smell alone. From the moment he could hold a pestle in his small hand, Nuruddin was drawn to the mysteries of the natural world. He collected leaves, stones, drops of dew, and powdered roots. While other children played in the sun, he crouched under fig trees, grinding strange seeds, watching how they changed colour in water, or how a pinch of dust could turn steam into a new scent. There was magic in every transformation, and Nuruddin believed it wasn't just nature, but purpose. As he grew, so did his knowledge. Word of his healing hands travelled far. He could calm fevers with a golden syrup made from date pits and honey. He soothed broken bones with poultices wrapped in banana leaves, and stitched wounds with silk thread dipped in oil of marjoram. Travellers brought him riddles in the form of illnesses, and somehow Nur-ad-Din always seemed to have a cure. He did not just mend the body, he comforted the spirit. His remedies came with lullabies, his potions with poetry. One day, when the Sultan's own child fell gravely ill and no court physician could help, a messenger rode out into the night to fetch this humble healer. Nur-ad-Din came not in grand robes, but with a satchel of herbs and a prayer on his lips. By morning the child opened his eyes and smiled. That day, Nur-ad-Din became more than a village alchemist. He became the royal alchemist, keeper of the kingdom's most ancient secrets and guardian of its health. In the early years of his life at court, Nur-ad-Din flourished. He turned the palace's forgotten greenhouse into a living laboratory, where vines curled toward lanterns and glowing mushrooms pulsed with soft light. He created perfumes that calmed angry hearts, and powders that gave courage to warriors. He taught the young scribes how to distill water from air, and how even the simplest root, if respected, could become powerful. But time, like any potion, brings changes. A turning point came quietly, wrapped in the hush of jealousy. There were whispers, some feared his knowledge, others wanted it. Greedy nobles sought to own his secrets, while foreign traders offered fortunes for just one vial from his mysterious shelf. One evening, a trusted apprentice betrayed him, stealing a formula meant to ease pain in the elderly and selling it in black markets beyond the dunes. Nur-ad-Din was heartbroken, not because of the theft, but because he had always believed in sharing knowledge, never selling it. The court grew cold. Accusations brewed like bitter tea. Though the Sultan remained loyal, pressure mounted from all sides. Nur-ad-Din, weary and wounded by betrayal, chose to withdraw. He did not disappear, but rather he stepped away from the public eye. He tended to the poor outside the palace walls, mixing healing paste for mothers and balm for wounded soldiers returning from desert skirmishes. The kingdom quietly mourned his absence, even as its pulse beat on. Nur-ad-Din's later years were quiet but deeply meaningful. His scrolls, once jealously guarded, were donated to scholars. His greenhouse became a garden of learning, where children were invited to mix, crush, and wonder. His life became less about potions and more about passing on wonder. And though he no longer stood beside the Sultan, his presence lingered like the scent of saffron in tea, subtle, comforting, unforgettable. The meaning of his journey echoes like a soft spell across time, that true power lies not in controlling nature, but in listening to it, respecting it, and using it to heal, not harm. Nur-ad-Din's story became a quiet lesson in balance, in wisdom, in humility. And now, dear dreamer, let the gentle spirit of the alchemist wrap around you like a velvet night. Picture his glowing workshop, filled with tiny vials and humming lanterns, the air thick with rosemary and rosewater. Hear the bubbling of calm brews and the soft scratch of feathered pens on scrolls. Breathe in deeply. Let his wisdom settle like warm honey in your heart. Tonight you carry no burden, no riddles need solving, just the hush of a healer's tale guiding you toward rest. Sleep well, beloved traveller. Let your dreams be full of gentle transformations, where even pain turns to peace, and every breath is a soft miracle waiting to bloom. May the stars above shine as kindly on you as they once did on Nur-ad-Din. Sweet dreams. Wandering Bard. Sami sings tales of heroism and love. Long ago, before palaces gleamed and fountains whispered across marble courtyards, a boy named Sami was born beneath a silver moon. His parents were nomads, people of the wind, who roamed the golden dunes of the southern lands, their tents rising and falling with the tides of the stars. They had little wealth, but their nights were rich with music. Around firelight, elders would strum wooden lutes and recite tales older than the sand itself. And it was in this cradle of story and sound that young Sami first opened his eyes. His first lullaby was not sung by a mother alone, but by the desert winds through stretched canvas. His first toy was a hollowed reed that whistled when he blew. While others learned to herd or trade, Sammy was enchanted by rhythm and rhyme. He would follow old storytellers like a loyal pup, watching their hands paint pictures in the air. His favourite gift was a lyre with a cracked frame, strung with horsehair, gifted by an aging bard who saw the glow in the boy's eyes. By the time Sammy could walk great distances, he had begun composing songs. His voice was not loud but clear, like spring water spilling over stones. People began to invite him into their tents just to hear him hum. He sang not only of faraway legends, but of the beauty in small things, a lover's glance, a falcon's dive, the silent pain of a widow waiting for news. The heart of his music was empathy, and so it nestled gently into the hearts of others. Sammy's rise was not like that of a prince or a warrior, but rather like the dawn, soft, slow, impossible to ignore. Traders carried his verses from market to market. One song he wrote about a forgotten hero saving a village during a sandstorm reached the ears of the Sultan himself. And when the Sultan heard that the voice behind the tune was a simple bard with a feather in his cap and dust on his sandals, he sent word, "Come, let your songs grace my halls." With his worn lute slung across his back, Sammy entered the palace gates. He did not dress in silk nor ride a grand steed, but when he opened his mouth to sing, silence fell like snow, courtiers wept, guards held their breath, even the fountain in the courtyard seemed to pause. From that day forward, Sammy became the palace's wandering bard, free to travel far and wide, returning with fresh tales that nourished both hearts and history. In the early years of his court life, Sammy brought laughter and unity. He sang of heroes and heroines, of lost loves found again beneath moonlit trees. He reminded warriors of their honour and reminded nobles of their humanity. He sang of farmers' courage, of mothers' sacrifices, of kings who once wept in private chambers. His songs were bridges between worlds, binding rich and poor, old and young, ruler and ruled. But no song lasts forever without change. There came a time when Sammy's tone began to shift. Perhaps it was age. Perhaps it was what he saw on his journeys, villages forgotten by the crown, soldiers broken not by war but by silence. Sammy still sang, but now his verses held sorrow beneath the sweetness. His ballads dared to question, not just celebrate. Whispers spread through the court. The bard grows bold, ministers furrowed brows. One accused him of planting unrest with rhymes. The Sultan, though fond of him, grew wary, for songs, while beautiful, are dangerous when they remind the sleeping of truth. Sammy was not exiled. That was never the way. Instead, invitations to court grew less frequent. His songs were replaced by shallow entertainments, and so, with grace, he stepped back into the open world. His feet found dusty paths again, his voice rising once more under starlight rather than chandeliers. He wandered, not bitter but wiser. In humble villages he found purer audiences. Children clapped as he sang of dragonflies and brave goats. Old men offered him dates and tea in return for stories. He never stopped weaving new songs, even when his beard turned silver and his hands trembled on the strings. And when at last his voice began to fade, Sammy returned to the palace, not as an entertainer but as a legend. The Sultan, now older too, welcomed him with softened eyes. "You taught my people to feel," he whispered, "even when I forgot how." Sammy gave his last performance beneath the moon. No lights, no crowd, just the royal family, a few guards and the scent of blooming night jasmine. He sang a lullaby without words, only humming, a cradle of sound. Afterward, he hung his lute upon the wall of the palace library where it remained still, untouched but humming faintly whenever someone dares to dream with open ears. His legacy, more than melody. Sammy became a reminder that stories shape us, that songs can teach, heal, and gently awaken. In a world of noise, his verses taught the beauty of listening, and his memory lives on not in stone statues, but in the heartbeats of storytellers yet to be born. And now, dear dreamer, close your eyes and hear him, not with your ears, but with the part of your soul that still believes in starlit songs and whispered wonders. Let the echoes of his lute lull you into stillness, and the warmth of his tales wrap you in quiet peace. No need to speak now, no need to move. Let your breath match the rhythm of the night. Sleep well, gentle traveller. May your dreams be sung by a voice like Sammy's, soft, wise, and full of love. Sweet dreams.